the England cricket side and the Test match side over the next year or so, how they get this Test match team back playing good, consistent cricket.
What's the relationship like between the captain and the coach? And I, as you heard me there say to Ben, usually, I'd use the point of Nasser Hussain and Duncan Fletcher as being one that similar to this, and actually they both joined at the same time. But usually there's one of those two positions already in place. So does that person normally assume the more senior role, or do you both start off at the same level? I mean, you had Duncan Fletcher, didn't you, who'd also been in it for a few years. You'd have had Andy Flower,
and Peter
again, who'd been there for some time. The fact that both are starting off together, and I guess also part of the point, I was a bit surprised, and I thought they weren't going to do it this way. I thought they were going to announce the coach first and then the captain, but actually they didn't. They did the captain first and then the coach. I mean, how does that relationship work?
Well, I think it's down to the coach to adapt, because the captain, he's the one out in the field. He looks after the team on the field. The coach can play different roles. Like if you've got an inexperienced captain, he might need to take more on his shoulder, and he has to be the one flexible. If you've got an experienced captain who knows what he's doing, the coach can take a bit of a backward step if he feels it's necessary. The captain doesn't really change. You know, it's his way in one sense, because he's out there, he's got to worry about his runs, his scores, and if you're asking the captain to change massively, you obviously don't want him to captain in the style he's been given. So obviously Ben Stokes, you know what you're going to get with him now. It's going to be very simple. Heard in that interview, the odd swear word thrown in. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just he's going to say it bluntly, and he'll say his team talks there. Some say obviously Brendan McCullum might have to be a bit more tactile. Might have to put arms around shoulders to certain players. But if you have a different coach, a different captain, say a quieter captain, he could be then it's time the coach to step up. So I think it's down to Brendan to really forge kind of the relationship in one way, because he's the one who can be flexible, because he's got that bit more time to do it.
Yes, I mean, were you grateful that you had a very established coach already in place, because you wouldn't have captained much? Absolutely.
I was really definitely a different relationship between Andy Flower and I suppose I had Peter Moores as well, but then Trevor Bayes at the end. When Trevor took over, I was in this quite established captain. I'd done it for 3.5 years. I'd kind of done the roller coaster, learnt what my style is, and he just let me do how I want to. Definitely Andy Flower was on the front foot for me, and actually looking after me, because it's a big job to do. No matter how many games you play with that not that much experience behind you, and certainly I'm a slightly not more timid character than Stokesy, but just a different character. So I definitely needed that person to drive certain things on, and Flower for me was very good at that.
How was your relationship?
Well, great. I'd worked obviously as a player with Duncan for 2 or 3 years, just with my batting, so I had a good relationship. As soon as I got the job, he knew the style of person that I was. He knew that I wanted to take the team in a different direction. He was that coach that just wanted to go with the thoughts of what I was as a young captain. He liked the idea of a bit of change, a little bit of personnel change, a little bit of an attempt to try and play a different style of cricket. He was all for that. He never once sat me down and said, "Oh no, I don't think that's possible," or "I don't think we can achieve that." He was very geared towards making a few tweaks with the senior pros at that time to manoeuvre them, not completely out of the, but we wanted to arrive, particularly in 2005, with a fresh set of minds, and he was aligned to that from day one. This partnership intrigues me, because you got Ben Stokes, who's so positive, and you got Brendan McCullum, who's so positive.
Well, that's going to come to that next.
In my situation with Duncan, I don't think we were aligned together all the time. I think we were a little bit apart, but we met in the middle.
Yes.
And I think you do need a bit of yin and yang in management. And my fear for these two, when it's great, it's going to be incredible.
Yes.
And I just wonder when it happens that it doesn't quite go the way that they want. Is there another angle that they can get? Is it worth them getting someone? Maybe they have someone in that backroom team who can be that other style person. I believe in management. If you're thinking of an individual that you can manage every single character in the dressing room, I think it's impossible. I think you need to align different characters in your management to manage the different personalities in the team. I couldn't manage every person in the side. It's impossible. I can't align myself with all the different character traits. And I just wonder if there's someone in that backroom team that could take more of a prominent leadership role on that's just slightly different from Ben and Brendan.
Well, that's what's going to be really important. I've been really impressed with Brendan actually in the first couple of weeks, because he's done no massive statements. He hasn't come in and said we change the team. He's picked the same players because it's solid base. We're going to work from there. We're going to work with these players. And then he hasn't changed any of the backroom staff yet. He's going to just have a little look and see it. And absolutely, he'll need a coach in there, which I'm sure there'll be some changes in the backroom staff, which do, complement him. So there's someone a totally different character, so you can have those conversations, and you need that. But he's a shrewd man, as you know.
I think there's someone in there that I would go to as having a more prominent position, and that's Marcus Trescothick. I think Trez is the perfect foil for Ben Stokes, Brendan McCullum, and Trez will be very, very sensible.
Yeah, very thoughtful.
Realistic, sensible. Wait a minute, guys, I don't think that's possible. Maybe we just need to just draw back a little bit and play a little bit more of a safer game. Test cricket's a long game. You don't have to go all out too early. It's playing poker, isn't it? You don't go all in with your first hand. You've just got to play the cards. And
it's always someone who's got the guts, if you like, but who knows he can say the confidence to say it.
And he's got experience, and he's been there, he's done it, and he understands people, and he could be that foil for this competition.
It's got to be someone Brendan absolutely trusts, because when you're leading, as you said, a big organisation, a big team like that, it will be someone which he can turn to, who tells the home truths to. And Trez seems to, for us, we know Trez really well. I don't know how, obviously Brendan knows him, but he looks like he's just going to have a look.
Trez was the greatest ever vice captain, because he just was so good at just giving information, but never wanted to be. And look, I think Marcus has visions in the future to be the league coach. I really do think he's got that mentality of love of coaching, that he thinks that in time he could be the league coach, but at the minute I think he could be the perfect foil for this combination.
I mentioned the vice captain in there, and again, vice captains over the years, I've not been particularly energised by that debate, but it just does seem with Stokes it's quite a big appointment to make, because he does have fitness issues. He's not going to play every test match. That is going to be a bigger appointment, I think, than we've had in recent years. Have you got any thoughts? And I think he recognises that as well now, doesn't he? To give it some time, not saddle anybody with that. What sort of person? You're looking down that side. That aren't. It's usually a batsman, but you look down the list of batsmen who it could be. They've got to get some runs before they got talking about being vice captain. And
as Ben Stokes said so well, that he doesn't have to make that decision now. They don't need something will evolve in this team over the next.
Unless Ben does a groin in this game.
Most overrated position in the game, vice captain.
Okay, so just say you had to have another captain next week.
At the minute, I would. At the minute, he doesn't need to make that decision. If he goes off this afternoon, I personally would gut instinct would just look around the team at that moment and probably go, Stuart, just take over for an hour. Jimmy, take over. Whoever it may be at that time, I don't think he needs to think about a vice captain as we speak. If he gets injured, of course you have to announce a captain.
Yes.
And it might be that Jimmy Anderson does it for a week, or Stuart Broad. At the minute, there's no one in that group that I can look at and think and believe that they actually deserve the tag of vice captain. It's not there for them at the minute. It may come in 3 or 4 games' time. We'll have to wait and see. But I just think every single player that goes on that pitch with the captain should be the vice captain. You should have 10 vice captains, because they all should be thinking like you as a captain. They should be thinking about the game. They should be thinking about how tactically you can manoeuvre your team in the best sense to put pressure on the opposition. I, at the minute, don't think England need to worry about a vice captain. It will just arrive. There'll be someone that will captain the country if Ben Stokes gets injured.
It's all that pre-planning, isn't it? All the stuff which could happen. There are times for that, but at this time for England cricket team in the test time, they don't need that complication, do they? I think England have done it well this week, kept it very simple, and that's the way they're going to do it this week, and then the next week, and the next week.
Game at a time.
Next 3 weeks, do that. Game at a time. We'll cross any bridge we get to it, and just let these two settle into their role and just see what happens.
Fascinating. Thanks you two, and we'll talk more tomorrow. More specifically about Brendan McCullum, actually, the character, and the man who's coming in, obviously, as England's coach. But what a morning! He can't possibly, if he'd woken up in the night and dreamt what would be the most, the most extraordinary position that he could find England in on his first morning as England coach. He couldn't have dreamt up 39 for 6. It really has been full of drama. Matthew Potts had a great morning, and I hope you've all enjoyed following it, whatever you may be doing on this bank holiday Thursday, which is an unusual thing to say. Dan Norcross is here to pick up commentary.
Thank you, Jonathan. Yes, the players are out there. The sun is still shining as it has done most of the day. It feels for all the world like a batting day, but it won't be feeling like that if you're a New Zealand supporter who have gone into lunch at 39 for 6 and have come out with Jameson and Colin de Grandhomme trying just to pieced together some kind of total. James Anderson is going to continue. He's only conceded 2 scoring shots in the entire session. 4 and a 1. 8 overs, 6 maidens, 2 for 5. As Broad and Anderson back in tandem. They picked up 3 wickets between them, but the other 3 to Matthew Potts. Here's Anderson. First ball after lunch. Jameson on strike. And he plays that with an angle bat into the ground and is brilliantly fielded at gully. Well, that sets the tone for a session. It was a shortish ball and Pope flung himself into the air to prevent what would have been 4 runs down through deep backward point. And he's pulled off a blinder of a stop, Jeremy Coney.
Yeah, good start, wasn't it? It always helps the bowler when you just drag one down a little bit and you think, oh, there's a boundary. No, it's been stopped.
Here is Anderson. So slogged high in the air. It's going to land safely and square the wicket on the offside. That was an uncouth shot by Carl Jameson, who's played a couple of strange shots in this innings already, and he just flung himself at the ball. Second ball after lunch, 41 for 6. Jeremy Coney, is that a sign of intent?
Well, New Zealand have to change something. I mean, it's one of the questions I think you could ask about the morning session. Could they have done anything else? We know that they were unable to play perhaps the proper way.
Anderson in. Jameson has another hack, and this time gets a thick inside edge. No foot movement, just all hands looking to whack the ball, and it rolls to mid-wicket where Lees does the fielding. No run.
That's worse than the first stroke, actually. That's the danger, of course, of taking this view, is that you don't show any discretion about what the delivery's doing. It's got to be within the compass of, yes, as long as I can get to that, and I still play a stroke, keep your body shape above the ball properly so that even if it goes near, it carries some distance. You've got to do that. You can't just hit everything.
He can bat, can Jameson?
Oh, yeah.
Anderson is into him again, and he's gone for a big hoik, and that's gone high in the air, out over deep mid-wicket, and he's going to run away to the boundary for 4. That is a better shot. It's a little shorter from Anderson, but look, the intent is there. Before lunch, he'd have got up on his toes and defended it, but I noticed before lunch, he was coming onto the front foot and then almost got hit by a short ball that he wasn't expecting, getting into a bit of a tangle. De Grandon did off the last ball before lunch, and it's almost as if they're just not picking the length at the moment.
Well, I mean, this is the way that Jameson has actually batted in the last year, very aggressively, hitting the ball in the air.
Anderson into him, and he's gone for another one. This has gone high in the air. It's going down to long leg. Fielder's underneath it. Takes the catch. Well, there was something incredibly inevitable about that. Matt Potts on debut down at long leg. A short ball swung at by Jameson. Top edge up in the air for a long, long time. It went straight to the man, Matthew Potts. And New Zealand have lost their 7th wicket. What an extraordinary first over after lunch. Jeremy Coney, you said that's the way Carl Jameson had been playing, but it was pretty ugly stuff, really.
Yeah, but no discretion about it. It was just shot after shot after shot after shot. That one just got a wee bit high. It was obviously more leg side. That's why it went finer than the previous delivery. There's 2 men set back there. You just say to yourself, you look around, if you value your wicket in these situations, I don't know whether New Zealand feel, let's get in and get out in these conditions.
To have a bowl.
Exactly. Now, they might feel that way. I don't know. It wouldn't have been perhaps the way I would have chosen. I think you need to still show there's some value to my wicket. I'm not going to. You can play aggressively, but be determined to not get out. And that's always the way in cricket. I don't think if you don't value your wicket at any stage. So, and I think that's disappointing from someone like Jameson, because he can play. He is the future as far as New Zealand is concerned of an all-rounder type, and he talks about wanting to be an all-rounder. That's not an all-rounder's judgment to me.
Do you know what it reminded me of a little bit is Stuart Broad's batting, but Stuart Broad's batting down at 10 and Jameson is batting there at 8. I mean, in that over, the first ball he played probably quite well, actually. It was slightly shorter ball into the ground, great diving stop. There was then a wild whack, one outside the off stump that went in the air, square of the wicket. Then he had another hack to mid-wicket. Then a short ball that he put away for 4, and then a short ball he's planted straight into the hands of Potts. Here's Anderson to the new bat, who punches off the back foot nicely, square of the wicket. That's going to run away up to the grandstand for 4. And sorry, I was thinking that was the new batter, but it's not, because in Test cricket you can cross.
Yes.
It's in the IPL and indeed in white ball cricket, people have not been crossing. So that was Colin de Grandon, who hit the last ball of the over 4, an over that cost Anderson 10 runs, and he conceded a wicket. Andy Zaltzman, what's going off out there?
Yes, he conceded 5 in his first 8 overs with 2 wickets, 10 from that over with his 3rd wicket, to illustrate the decline in Kyle Jamieson's batting, albeit in a brief Test career so far. It's his 15th game. His first 6 Tests, only batted 6 times, but passed 20 on each occasion, 226 runs at an average of 56. But since then, since the start of the England tour last summer, he's played 9 Tests, 131 runs, averaged 10.9.
Yeah, somehow the attitude of the lower order in New Zealand has crept through to Jamieson. And he was a better player, as I say. When he came in, he was hitting good, strong drives, still hitting the ball in the air, but very effectively. So there was judgment with the stroke and a better chance of getting a good result because of that.
Broad's going to start up from the nursery end. And he's a play and a miss from Tim Southey in the channel outside the off stump.
Southey will play aggressively too.
As will Bolt.
That's the way, absolutely. So, it did upset, let's say from the point of view of New Zealand, it did upset the lengths of Anderson.
Yep, he bowled shorter, didn't he?
He got a wicket, fair enough, but it did upset his length. He bowled a short one, the first ball to de Grandon, didn't he, and was carved away with a safe stroke.
Yep, so 49 for 7, Broad in. He's got 4 slips, and the new bat Southey facing up. Southey just tucks this away off the hip, down towards long leg for a single to bring the 50 up. Finally, at the 26th over at nearly 5-2, New Zealand have made 50 for the loss of 7 wickets. What an extraordinary day we've had.
The other aspect about it, for me, if I was a captain of the side, to say to you, look, you've got a batsman at the other end. There's a guy called de Grandon who's just got off 120 in his last Test match. He's not out yet. Maybe he can get us a few. Maybe you two could have a partnership. And that's gone now.
It wasn't really. These weren't the shots of a number 8. It didn't feel to me. Broad into de Grandon, who gets turned round by this thick leading edge, squirts out through point. They're going to come back for a second run. The throw comes in. The full ball again from Broad. If you want to see, I imagine probably the whole of that first over after lunch. It really was an extraordinary first over. Then highlights are on BBC 2 tonight from 7 o'clock. And of course, you get them on iPlayer, and that wicket will be up on the BBC Sport website and app in no time. You judge for yourself what on earth Kyle Jamieson was doing in that over. Well, I mean, we know what he was doing. He was trying to take the fight to England, but he didn't even give himself an over to have a look. Broad in again to de Grandon, who pulls at this out towards square legs. Square legs unsided, can't see it, and he goes out through mid-wicket for 4. So after a very attritional first session, we have now had 3 boundaries.
Yes, 15 runs in 10 balls.
How many boundaries were there before lunch?
Okay, sorry, 17 runs in 10 balls. Before lunch, there were 5 boundaries.
And we've had 3 in 10 balls.
Yeah, well, New Zealand have obviously had a chat. And they said that's the way we're going to play. It's the way the bottom order in New Zealand have played in the last year. I think it's not necessarily the right way if you've got a batsman at the other end.
De Grandon faces up again, Broad into him, and he drives at the full ball and misses it as it whistles into the gloves of folks. De Grandon on to 13 with that previous 4, but that was another good ball in the channel that on another day he might have left own. I say that de Grandon was a very attacking style batter, but he was leg side of that ball, driving airily, waftily through to the keeper. It feels like there's going to be a 4 a wicket every ball at the moment. 56 for 7. You heard that right if you're just tuning in. Broad runs away from us from the nursery end. Full, driven out again and missed again by de Grandon. Slightly shaping down the hill. It's all happening here Broad has 1 for 31 in 9 overs. End of the over. De Grandhomme 13, Southey 1. New Zealand 56 for 7. Andy Zaltzman.
New Zealand's score at the fall of the 7th wicket was 45 for 7. It's their 4th worst start to a test match with the bats when they've been batting first. They were 21 for 7 in their first ever test on day 1. Before recovering to pass 100, 37 for 7 in the test after the Second World War against Australia. I think only retrospectively became a test match.
Was that what stopped Australia playing New Zealand again?
For almost 30 years,
yes.
I think. Then
Anderson starts a new over from the pavilion end. Southey, it's a shorter ball which he just pushes into the gap on the offside. There are plenty of gaps close in on the offside. We've got 4 slips, an extra cover. So there's a gap square of the wicket, and Southey's able to get off strike 57 for 7.
Other than those 2 games early in New Zealand's test history, the only time they've made a worse start than this batting first in a test was when they were 31 for 7 in Cape Town, January 2013, which was Brendan McCullum's first test as New Zealand captain.
Out for 45 or something like that.
Well. Anderson in to De Grandhomme. De Grandhomme edges on long the ground, and it's stopped by Crawley at second slip. It's another sort of poke. We've seen this so much today, and it speaks to the rustiness of the New Zealand batting display. If we're going to feel sympathy for England's travails in the Ashes and their lack of preparation, we must be even-handed and say that New Zealand also have not had anything like the preparation they would like, and they have looked like a side. Every batter has looked like someone who just doesn't know where their off stump is, doesn't know whether to play it or leave it. Anderson in to De Grandhomme, and he does leave this in the channel outside the off stump, slightly fuller. There's no run.
And that one didn't nip, but prior to lunch the ball did move around a little. There's no doubt about that, and in that sense I guess you would say that it was quite a good toss to lose.
More in it than you thought, wasn't there?
Yes, yeah. Stokes said he would have done the same. So I don't think Williamson should be sitting there feeling, I've messed this up, batting first. No, not at all. It's not his fault.
Anderson into De Grandhomme, who punches off the back foot with no timing, up to Stokes at wide mid-off. There's no run. Seasoned Lords watchers, I mean, everybody here assumed whoever won the toss was going to bat. You felt it with the overheads. You had said yourself that the pitch looked dry. Grass, dry. Mm-hmm. Went in with a spinner, hoping to bowl last.
Leach, yes.
So it felt like exactly the right decision. But a tentative batting, some very good, reliable, repeatable bowling from England. So Anderson is in. De Grandhomme, it's one of the pads. It's gone high in the air, but it's going to land safely. It's gone in exactly the opposite direction from that which De Grandhomme expected as he looked to work it leg side, and it's flown through backward point. He's got a thick leading edge. It's happened a couple of times today because the ball is still moving slightly, and I guess he thought that was going to come down the hill, and it didn't. And they've picked up 3. De Grandhomme 16, 60 for 7. This is a recovery of sorts. I mean, 21 runs have come, and we haven't had 3 overs since lunch, albeit for the loss of Kyle Jamieson. But we can see exactly how New Zealand are intending to play this. But actually, he just threw the shot too early there.
Yes, he was.
The replay.
He was almost back of the bat. So he's turned the face of the bat through the line of the ball.
I'm not sure it's going to go there again, but Stokes has put a deep backward point in. I suppose
this is what you can do, and if it does disrupt the field, for example, then you can say, that's working.
Anderson in. De Grandhomme pushes into the big gap that's now been created, just waited in the crease, played it late, and pushed it square of the wicket on the offside for a single. So 61 for 7. Southey, I beg his pardon.
Yeah.
Southey. 61 for 7, because of course they went through for 3 the previous ball. De Grandhomme has 16, Southey has 3.
The other thing that happens sometimes is that after lunch, after you get 40 minutes of a little bit of let's call it a wan kind of sun.
Yeah, wan.
The pitch does change a little. It's not quite as nippy as prior to lunch. And I think that's another, got to throw that into the judgment about how we're going to play as well. Do we have to take such a percentage of risk with our shot mating?
Ball a bit softer, seam a bit less proud?
Maybe, I don't know.
Those. 4 slips. Broad starts in, bowling to Southey. And Southey pulls at this, out through mid-wicket. That's a great shot, a really good shot. And it's run up towards the grandstand for 4. It was a short, and it was just a swivel pull from Southey. And we've seen a couple of those since lunch, 65 for 7.
So the other thing that I think that what could New Zealand have done prior to lunch to perhaps try and disrupt the bowling instead of playing rather loose percentage strokes, which we're seeing, but they're hanging in and they're getting some offerings now that they weren't getting before.
Well, England were allowed to sort of bowl at
that's
New
right.
Zealand, weren't they? As Broad runs in from the nursery end, and Southey gets leg side of the ball, just pushes it from the crease into a gap on the offside, about 4 or 5 yards square in front of square, and gets through for a single. He has 8 from 6, 66 for 7.
So I haven't seen the nip actually since lunch, or one just nipping away or holding its line or anything like that. That's just carrying straight on at this stage. The other thing I think you can do, and if you have played a lot of cricket, which a lot of these players have, you can change the length of the bowler yourself as a batsman. Not by playing broad strokes.
As Broad is in, and de Grandhomme lets this go by, quite close to the off stump, but a good leave nonetheless.
Is that you can change the position on the crease, not sideways, laterally going to off stump or anything like that, but actually towards the bowler. So you bat out of your crease. And you might only do it for 4 balls, but you let the bowler know that you're doing it.
By taking guard.
Absolutely.
And ostentatiously moving down.
Just moving out,
yeah.
And that forces the bowlers then to bowl a shorter length. Maybe the nicks don't carry. That's the first thing.
Broad from the nursery end, headband on, runs in to Colin de Grandhomme, who lets this go by a little bit wider. That had a little shake down the hill.
Yeah, that did.
Into the keeper's gloves, there's no run.
But I think that's another way, and then move back to your crease, and then move out again, so that you keep the bowler on his toes, thinking about something else that he has to do as he runs in. And then you might get a bit of an offering as well. I just think they were allowed to bowl, I thought, England this morning. And maybe some of those experienced players could have tried something else when New Zealand was in deep shtuck.
Broad in on the pads, and it's worked into the onside, off a bit of pad, and I wonder if there's any bat. The umpire looks like, no, it's leg bys being signalled by umpire Goff. 67 for 7, it's just rolled out onto the inside.
What do you think, Daniel? Can New Zealand get to 100?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
I mean, they scored 28 runs in 4 overs.
Can they get to 100? Okay, so let's say they score 100. Can they then restrict the lead to 150?
Looking at England's batting woes over the last few years, they could probably restrict the lead to 50. We'll see. Although it doesn't look too bad pitch to bat on.
No, it doesn't. Not now.
Broad in, and that's played at and missed. In the channel again, just poking from the crease was Southey. End of the over. 67 for 7, New Zealand. De Grandhomme 16, Southey 8. More thoughts, questions and cogitations from Jeremy Coney. And then, getting under my feet somewhat, it will be Simon Mann.
Well, Southey's looking for singles on that offside and just pushed at a ball that just went through. It didn't really nip again. There's one in that over that went down the slope, as Daniel described. But other than that, there's certainly, as far as I can see, and I don't think it's the condition of the ball. The ball can't be too much older, can it? But the pitch can certainly have changed a little.
29th over, sorry, wrong button, there we go. That's eventually, right. And Anderson bowls, it's played away, and there's no run. 68 for 7. They got 1 run, sorry. De Grandhomme moves to 17. And Southey back on strike. Southey's been playing in the IPL. He averaged in the IPL. Do you know how many he averaged in the IPL?
No idea.
0.5.
Oh. Didn't make too much difference to his team's total.
No.
How many bats did he get?
5.
Oh.
0, 1 not out, 1. And there's 5 knocks in the IPL. Only faced 12 balls.
I can see why you've told us that.
Anderson bowls to Southey. Southey crunches that away for 4 over backward point. Up towards the grandstand. The point is, though, he can bat. He's quite a useful lower order hitter, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he's got all that.
Top score 70 something.
Yeah. And he's got he's got that record for hitting sixes in Test cricket.
Well, that's
as well.
what he was after. You could see that.
Yeah.
But if he just stays in line with the ball a bit more and backs himself, he's actually quite a good stroke maker.
Yeah.
But he tends to hit leg side a lot more and just play on half the field. But I hope he just hangs in there a little bit today.
72 for 7. Anderson, 3 wickets to his name. Bowls to Southey, that's down the leg side. That's gone before as well. Possibly off the pad, possibly off the bat. No, it is off the bat. And Anderson losing his line. It was helped away. A rather agricultural fine glance from Southey, but he'll be happy enough. Another 4 to his name. 76 for 7, and Southey's now on to 16, and that's close on his Test match average. And although he had that poor IPL with the bat, well, he didn't face that many balls, to be fair to him, and you're slogging at the end, aren't you, basically. He did make 34 in that counties game the other day and rescued New Zealand from a not dissimilar situation to this one, actually, to set the counties 11 a decent score in that second innings.
Yeah. All the runs came from the wrong place.
That's right,
in that innings for New Zealand.
Yeah. Anderson bowls to Southey, and Southey gets a short ball, goes ballooning over his head. The umpire's check's not a wide, it's not. Folkes goes across to take it. So these two came together 45 for 7. It's now 76 for 7. And your mind does go back in situations like this to, say, what happened last year on the final day of the Test match between India and England, when Bumrah and he's expunged that memory from his mind, I think. But when Bumrah and who was it, Shami, were smacking it everywhere, and England were bowling short, and it was disappearing. Anderson bowls another short ball. Southey ducks underneath it. It's taken by Folkes, and there is no running. They're completely losing control on that final day. Again, they were in control of, and they couldn't get that last wicket, and then India dictated terms and then bowled England out. And what was it? I mean, it was a dramatic, eye-catching last day. It really was. I mean, what a turnaround. But England completely lost the plot. So England...
Well, England started the day with the chance of winning.
Exactly. Well, they looked like the favourites to win, yeah. Anderson, pavilion behind him, sets off to bowl to Southey. And Southey pushes that away towards deep backward point. England have a fielder out there, so it's only a single. Throws on its way back into Folkes. 77 for 7.
Yeah, that memorable game against India last summer. India were 209 for 8 when Bumrah joined Shami. Shami, I think, from memory, had averaged about 6 in the last 5 years of Test cricket. Bumrah had a Test average around about 3. India were about 182 ahead in their second innings with just the 2 wickets left, and they added 89 in 20 overs. India declared, and bowled England out inside 2 sessions to win.
Yeah. Don't want to dwell on gloomy occasions as far as England are concerned, but it can happen, can't it, when the tail enders start to play a few shots, or the lower order players start to play a few shots, and you lose control of the game.
Absolutely. That's why I'm just watching to see here how long will Stokes, what will he do? Broad
ball to Southey. Southey's a huge wipe at that one and misses it. It swung away as well down the slope, probably after it went past the bat. He was trying to hit that into the grandstand. Southey comes down the pitch to have a quick chat with de Grandhomme, do some gardening. De Grandhomme passed on a word there. It might be something along the lines of, you're a bit better than this, just play and see where it takes you. This is the 30th over. Broad 10 overs, 1 for 36. He took the wicket of Devon Conway, one of 3 catches earlier for Bairstow. Southey is batting on off stump. 3 slips are in, 2 men back. Broad bowls to Southey, and Southey fends at that one, and similar result to the ball before. Actually goes past the outside edge, a bit of a way movement from Broad, and it's through to wicketkeeper Folkes, and the 2 batters look as if they're going to have another quick chat. No, they decide against it, but actually same result, 2 balls, one of a huge swing, one a fence outside the off stump. Southey might think, well, actually, if I just stick around doing that, I might nick one. So he might be back to hitting mode. He's a naturally aggressive player, I think, down the order. Tim Southey does like to play his shots. He's walked off towards square leg and now settles over his bat, tapping at the crease. Broad bowls to him, short ball. Southey ducks underneath it, and an awkward duck as well, backpedaling. He's lost his balance, but he got underneath it, and Folkes gathered. Of course, there was that other occasion where on the first day of the India series last summer, where England had India something like 120 for 8, and Shardul Thakur came out and slammed a quick half century, and again it just altered the balance of the game. So England have a measure of control over the match. It's amazing how quickly a game can get away from you in circumstances like this. We've got two players who want to play their shots.
Well, England know that Saudi doesn't like the short-pitched ball. That's why we've seen Anderson bowl at probably 3 or 4 at him, and now Broad is doing the same. And if they can unsettle him, perhaps then they can get amongst him.
Broad bowls to Southey. It's full. He has a massive swing at that and misses. He's trying to hit that into the Compton stand. Head up. Broad stands in the middle of the pitch with his hands on his hips and has a quick chat with Southey. I think they're quite good friends, aren't they? I mean, I think they were chatting before the day's play, and all these players know each other so well. But he really did try to hit that hard.
I mean, as far as the game itself is concerned, 24 overs, 6 for 39 prior to lunch. 5 overs, 1 for 38 after lunch. So, the policy, while we might be a little bit critical of it at times, it's kind of in terms of the morning session, and it has dispersed the field a little bit.
3 men back on the leg side boundary. 3 slips in. Broad bowls to Southey, and Southey pushes to that when it goes past the outside edge and through to Folkes. Well, it almost doesn't matter what shot he's playing at the moment. He's just going past that outside edge. This is more like a T20 field that Southey's become used to in the last couple of months. 3 men on the leg side boundary, and now a man going out to deep backward point by the looks of it as well. Well, that is to try to protect the boundary for the last ball of the over, because they probably want to be bowling at Southey. They don't mind him taking a single so much here. So 4 men on the boundary, 3 on the leg side, 1 on the offside, 3 slips. Mid-on's quite deep as well, and so's mid-off. Stokes back-pedalling, and Broad bowls to Southey, and Southey nudges it into the leg side and takes the single. Outfielder coming in from deep mid-wicket to pick up. And so Southey goes to 18. De Grandhomme will have to watch on from the non-striker's end. He is on 17, and the score goes to 78 for 7. New Zealand were 45 for 7 when Jameson was caught by Potts at fine leg. A steepler off Anderson. Jameson out, I haven't written this down. How many did he make? 6, was it? 6. So out today. Latham 1, Young 1, Williamson 2, Conway 3, Mitchell 13, Blundell 14, and Jameson 6. So de Grandhomme 17 and Southey 18, the 2 leading run scorers today for New Zealand. Anderson's taken 3 for 30. His figures have been damaged a bit since lunch. 11 over 6 maidens, 3 for 30, but he's just got an outside chance of 5 for here for about the 187th time in Test cricket. He's turning at that far end in the warm afternoon sunshine, and prepares to go into bowl to Tim Southey with 3 men back on the leg side, and Southey clumps him down the ground. Doesn't time it perfectly. It's a chase for Broad from mid-on out towards the visitors' dressing room, and Southey comes back for a couple of runs, hitting that back over Anderson's head. The score moves to 80 for 7. Alistair Cook's here. Well, for a captain, when you do all the hard work, you get a team 7 down for nothing, and then this happens. It's not out of control yet, not by any means, but it can be one of those. What do you do? Field out, field in?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, it went so easily for Ben Stokes this morning. He's going to have to think a little bit here.
Southey on 20, Anderson bowls, and Southey steps to the leg side, tries to force it through the offside and misses it.
Just one of those periods, isn't it, where when they are defending they miss it, and when they slog it, it kind of just evades fielders. Got to just stay patient. I know these runs are good for New Zealand to build a little bit of momentum for them, but in reality 80 for 7 on what looks like a pretty good batting wicket. It has nibbled a little bit, but England will be very happy with this situation. They've just got to hold their nerve. Don't be don't chase it too much. They might get the odd 4, but I think they'll get the rewards in a minute.
Anderson to Southey. Southey forces that back past the bowler. More runs here. It's going up towards the long off boundary. 2 fielders after it. Broad getting ahead of Stokes, and Broad will get there first, knocks it back. Stokes picks it up, sends in the return, and Southey comes back for just the 2 runs. Well, they've got 3 there actually towards long off, but only 2. 82 for 7.
You want to be playing. You want them to be hitting the shots of your best balls in general. Sometimes here you then start searching for it and you bowl a bit fuller, and it makes it easier to hit the ball. That was actually a perfectly acceptable ball from Anderson. Top of the off stump. He just flat batted it past mid off. So you'd much rather than there. But sometimes here, when the emotion gets the better of you and you're getting a bit frustrated, then you start chasing, and that kind of plays in their hands. England just had to, in particular, the bowlers had to calm at the top of the mark.
Anderson tries again, bowls to Southey, hits this high in the air, out towards wide long. That's a good shot, right out in the middle of the bat, and it's gone away for 4 more. That's good hitting from Southey. And Anderson walking back to his mark, turned and walked straight back to his mark. He knew where that was going, and this is working well for Tim Southey. Moved to 26, and New Zealand to 86 for 7.
That's a bit more controlled, wasn't it? The shots off Stuart Broad, he was just trying to hit him as hard as he could. That one was a far more controlled hit through mid-wicket. Try and hit the ball as hard as you go. Went for a bit more timing and he nailed it.
3 men back on the leg side boundary. Anderson moves in, bowls to Southey, short ball, top edge, down towards fine leg, should be caught. It is. Potts with another catch, and Anderson has bounced out another one since lunch. And he's got 4 wickets. And Tim Southey's cameo is over at 26, and New Zealand are 86 for 8. And eventually one went up in the air to a fielder.
Kind of carbon copy of the Jameson wicket. Just rushed him on, wasn't quite as high, probably got top edge, and Matt Potts down there on the fine end boundary, just running back 4 or 5 yards, took a very comfortable catch above his chest. A good partnership, wasn't it, in terms of it's drawn a bit of
41.
Yeah, got a bit of runs, but it is, England just got to look at the overall situation. Now we know de Gromholm's going to play a few shots. Bolt, I think it might be in next, will do exactly the same. Just got to hold their nerve. The odd bouncer, but otherwise just keep trying to bowl your best ball and be very clear on what you want to do.
Trent Bolt and Ajaz Patel are the last 2 batters for New Zealand. Who's coming in? Looks like Patel. Yeah, it's coming in at the far end. I think the last time I watched him bat, I don't know if this I've dredged it up from my memory, when we were in Sydney watching him block out that Test match. Was he involved in that results? That match where they survived at the end, but then lost the next Test match. Have I got that right?
Yes, that second Test that they lost was the one that Patel took 10 wickets in. It was the third bowler to take 10 wickets in a Test innings. Just looking up the score.
I think
from
the game
first
before
Test.
at Green Park, Kanpur, I think he was involved in a...
Yeah, he lasted half an hour, 23 balls to secure the draw, with New Zealand with 9 wickets down. Him and Ratchin Ravindra, who I think was on debut, managed to bat out through to the end.
That's right, yeah. I remember watching that in the lead up to the Ashes series when we were in Sydney back in November. So Patel is in at number 10. Well, he took those 10 wickets in an innings and was dropped for the next Test match. But one Test was in India and the other one was in New Zealand. Right, here's Anderson bowling, and forward goes de Grandhomme. The batter's crossed while the ball was in the air. That rule will change, of course, from October. It's already in some short-form cricket. Just a Jack Leach medical update. He'll have a graduated return to play with a minimum period being 7 days out in accordance with concussion guidelines. It's 86 for 8. We've had 31 overs. More from you, Alistair, and then it will be Isha.
Just thinking about people who've played outstanding games and getting dropped for the next one. I think, didn't Karen Nair get a 300? I know he got a 300. He got 300 against England, and he didn't play the next game, which is slightly extraordinary. I do actually remember that game. It was my last game as a captain, and I dropped him on 30, so it only cost us 270.
At least it was you that told us, not me. It was Jason Gillespie as well. Double century in Bangladesh, and then
never played again for Australia.
Never played for Australia again. Crazy.
And there's also, isn't there 10 wickets in a game, never played again as well, I think.
Here comes Stuart Broad from the nursery end. Bowls now to Patel, who's driving to mid-on. 86 for 8 in the 32nd over here at Lord's. Day one, first day of the Test summer for England, and this brand new era under the leadership of Ben Stokes couldn't have gone much better at all. Potts coming into the game as well with plenty of wickets. 3 slips in a gully in position for Broad. Pushes away now. His arms pumping past the umpire to Patel, who's forward defending to extra, no run.
Yeah, I think Andy Caddick had a 10-wicket match, Sydney, to the end of the 2002-3 Ashes. 7 in the second innings, I think. Well, that was his final test.
But that's like the pub quiz question, isn't it? I think who got 200, never played again, who got 10 wickets. And I'm glad you said it was Caddick, because that's why I tell everyone. So I'm glad I was vaguely right.
Patel in his the last test he played was in Mumbai, took 10 for 119 and 4 for 106.
Patel, bat hovering baseball style. The left-hander is Broad bowls into the channel, lets it go through to the keeper.
It feels as if he's just calmed down again. We've had the
simmer down.
Saudi, Gromam and Jameson going to play shots, and I think
Jameson's innings was an interesting one.
Here for a quick time and a good time, not necessarily a long time. I was just eating my lunch and I heard all these roars of what was happening, and Dan Norcross told me exactly what happened in that over, but it was certainly all action. I think Patel's going to hang around a bit more stubbornly here.
Shot a ball after lunch from Jameson. As Broad comes again round the wicket to Patel, who's driving, and it's a lovely classical drive through the covers out to the boundary. Ben Stokes on the chase. They've come back for 2, and it will reach the boundary sponge now in front of the grandstand as Patel picks up a 4 to get off the mark.
Just a nice cover drive, very controlled, didn't try and hit it too hard, and I think that's what England will be encouraged with. Certainly as a top order, the batters you're looking at, the cameras have been going on Zach Crawley, Alex Lees. They'll be looking at those kind of shots and saying, yes, we know it's going to nibble a little bit for the first 10-15 overs, but fundamentally I think it is a good batting wicket.
Patel still backing across, allows it to go through from Broad, again just bowling that tight line in the channel. 90 for 8 then, New Zealand. Sun is out, lovely, gorgeous afternoon here at Lord's. Talk about it being a good pitch for batting. It looks like a good deck for batting. It looks like the perfect conditions for batting. New Zealand winning the toss, electing to bat first. I wonder what's going through Kane Williamson's mind as the field spreads. Now a deep point and a deep backward square for Stuart Broad. Final ball of the over. Wanted to keep him on strike. Broad running away from us. Bowls. Ooh. And it's a flirt outside the off stump, but beats the edge through to Ben Foakes, who gets another one just in front of him. And that is the end of the over. 90 for 8.
Did you have a look at the wicket this morning? I wasn't here in time to get out there.
I actually didn't get a chance to either. I'll have to ask Michael. I think he was out there with Aggers this morning, just after the toss.
I mean, it looks already now, after only 30-odd overs being bowled, there's some quite prominent footmarks, aren't there? Like where the bowler's following through. And you wouldn't necessarily say that, Stuart Broad and James Anderson were particularly heavy on their feet. So it looks like it is quite dry underneath. So I think it was a fairly obvious toss to bat first. You knew it was probably going to be tricky a little bit, but I don't think anyone expected 36 for 6.
Absolutely not. As Anderson continues from the pavilion end, 3 slips in play for de Grandhomme, who tucks it away out to deep mid-wicket. Push the 1, and England will cut off the second. Throw being sent in. 91 for 8 then, as de Grandhomme moves to 18. Just got to wonder what's going through Matt Parkinson's mind.
Well, they did play a game last night, didn't they?
They did.
For Lancashire. And did they have a game today? As in, did they have a game, or you wonder whether he had a bit of
a few drinks,
a few drinks last night, and then suddenly gets a few text messages on it, a few phone calls, and he's just waking up. But one of those amazing things, isn't it? You would never have thought this morning he'd be making his Test debut later on at some stage today, whether he gets here today.
Anderson round the wicket to Patel. The left-hander leans forwards and lets it go through. Yeah, quite extraordinary, really. Someone who's been fighting for a place in this England lineup doesn't get the nod in the squad. Jack Leach, the preferred spinner, and within the first 10 overs of the game, trying to field a ball down in front of the pavilion. Full commitment, you have to say, because he managed to stop the 4, but he dived over the boundary and ends up with concussion as Anderson bowls to Patel, who's solid in defence in front of him.
I don't know if this has happened before. I don't know if it's been discussed, but this is the first time someone's made their debut as a concussion replacement. Because I'm sure
for England,
I'm sure it makes.
Well, he's the first concussion replacement for England. I'll dig it. From memory, I think there might have been one player before who made a debut as a concussion, but I'll dig that up.
So of course, Marnus Labuschagne here a few years ago as Anderson bowls to Patel, slightly wider of the off stump. Lets it go.
Another thing I suppose Ben would not have had to think about this morning, no, as in during the game, he'll have to get someone to surely present his cap. Will he get his cap presented before someone presents it to him, or will they have a little huddle at maybe tea if he gets here at tea? If England are still bowling at tea, which would be unlikely, wouldn't it? You just feel they'll wrap up these 2 wickets at some stage.
You think it'd be tomorrow morning?
You'd have thought so, yeah. But who knows?
Yeah, who knows? So many things to consider. Alistair as Anderson bowls again in the channel. Outside the off stump. One more ball left of this over, then 33 overs of the day, and 8 wickets have fallen already. New Zealand on 91. I was talking to Tuffers about that day in 2005. Day 1 of the Test match in the Ashes. 19 wickets fell.
Were you here?
I was here. Staggering stuff to watch as Patel is struck on the pads. Anderson goes up. The finger is raised by Rod Tucker. Now that is 9 down now for New Zealand, but they have decided to review.
I mean, it looked pretty close from up here.
We have a review for LBW. The decision is out, and it's a fair delivery. Come front on first, please.
It could be Jimmy Anderson's fifer. It's around the wicket. It's just come out of the hand. It is the wobble seam. It's not the big swinger. I mean, has it done too much? As in, is it sliding? But I reckon as it's given out, is it going to clip leg stump? Thoughts?
Thank you.
Simon Mann's given it out behind us. Zoltz has given it out.
Well, the first question is there any bat involved? They're going to have a look now at Ultra Edge. There is a tiny...
Yeah. We'll go back. Just rock and rolling it, please. Thank you. I'll
tiny
go back
edge.
Field.
Inside edge of the bat onto the pad.
I'll get you to change decision to not out. There's bat involved. You're on signal now. Thank you.
So, James Anderson will have to wait for his 32nd fifer. He can't believe it.
I think he's just said to Rod Tucker he said he didn't hit it. I mean, I don't think that was on anyone's radar, was it, that he had hit the ball? I know he reviewed it pretty quickly, but when you've got 3 remaining, you might as well use them, haven't you? So,
well, there was a fairly sharp spike as the ball passed the bat.
I would say they didn't catch it, did they? Just, you just thought.
That's a good point, actually.
It did fly in general direction. Now we're looking at the replay of the thing, but it did fly up in towards us. I'm sure it hasn't. It hasn't gone anywhere near, otherwise there wouldn't be.
Well, here we go. Stuart Broad on to de Grandhomme, who's pushing at the ball out to long off. Ben Stokes out there, probably about 3/4 of the way back to get him off strike. De Grandhomme moves to 19, 92 for 8. New Zealand in the 34th.
Amazing in the game of cricket that 90 for 8, and it's the right tactical thing to do, but you know, he just almost thinking, just get one every time, and the top order, they're fighting for every single run they could get, and he's just almost, England are giving Colin de Grandhomme home run, and as you're absolutely right, it's just amazing the way the game evolves so quickly, isn't it?
Pushes away, now bowling to Patel, who's driving past extra to his left. Mid-off will collect the ball. And another single taken, so de Grandhomme back on strike. 93 for 8. Gentle breeze blowing. See the flags blowing in the distance above the Red Brick Pavilion. Plenty of hats and sunglasses being worn by the spectators. Full house is pulled away by de Grandhomme. Short ball bowled, doesn't get all of it onto the glove, and Ben Folkes runs around to collect the ball as they come through.
The Lord's buzz is back, isn't it?
Very much so. 94 for 8, de Grandhomme to 20.
Post-lunch buzz.
Post-lunch fuzz. I saw them starting early this morning, Andy.
Matthew Parkinson will be the third player to make his debut as a replacement in a test match.
I wouldn't have a clue. The other two.
Ajaz Patel back and across. Looks to swap the ball leg side, but nowhere near the short one from Stuart Broad. Trying to swat it away like a fly.
As a front foot pull duck. I think he got in a little bit of... Well, he did get a lot of... Not I think, he got in a lot of trouble. I'm not sure he was totally expecting a short one, then he... Well, I don't quite know what he's got. A front foot sweep pull. There's nowhere near it and quite late on it.
If you're Broad, are you going again or full one?
Oh, I think you've got to go again.
Okay, here he comes. Broad bowls a good length delivery to Patel, who covers his stumps and guides it to gully.
The previous players, I can forgive you, Alistair, for not remembering that Kaya Zondo of South Africa made his debut as a COVID replacement against Bangladesh last winter season, in fact April of this year. However, quite how you forgot Brian Mudzinganyama of Zimbabwe making his debut as a concussion replacement against Sri Lanka. I've no idea.
Change of angle for Stuart Broad as he bowls over the wicket to Patel, who tucks it away out to deep square of the front foot. Comes through for 1, and New Zealand go to 95 for 8 at the end of the 34th. De Grandhomme 20, Patel to 6. So just want someone to hang around with him for a little bit here. De Grandhomme, Carl Jamieson, we're watching his highlights back. Well, that was as if he was playing a T10, Alistair.
I would say, what's that? But then I'll get a bit of stick. But yeah, actually, ironically now, not ironically, but I suppose as a captain now with someone there, you'd be tempted just to change the pace a bit of spin, wouldn't you? Just throw it into the rough. You know, a Parkinson now, a leg spinner throwing it quite slowly, bowls it quite slowly. You know, stick or twist for Gromheim, a good option for England to have. But I mean, see James Anderson,
who bowls to Patel now, who defends in front of him. 2 extra, no run.
It's quite hard getting the ball out of James Anderson's hands now, and he's got 4 foot. But you know, as a captain, you can have that thought. And we haven't actually seen him bowl, have we, old Stokes?
He's just warming up now. See him doing a few movements from side to side, stretching out that groin. Matty Potts, of course, as well, sitting on the 3 wickets. What an opportunity that would be. A couple of wickets to get. 5 for here at Lord's on debut.
Got a little cut behind his ear, isn't he? I don't quite know how he's done that.
Anderson to Patel, looking to go up and over mid-off. Doesn't get the timing. Will just pick up the single. Stokes with a throw in. Nearly throwing himself off balance as he does so.
Yeah, he just clothed it, didn't he? Like, looked to go over the top of it, almost Southey-like. Oh, good length ball from Jimmy Anderson. He's just trying to hit it back over his head and kind of ballooned over mid-off. Sort of frustration in Jimmy there as he turned in hope that would have been his fifer.
Stark contrast by session. 0.63 the economy in the first session, going at over 6s in this one, New Zealand. There's Anderson bowls to de Grandhomme, who drives the ball out to deep cover, comes back for a couple. Ben Stokes collecting that one. So another couple to de Grandhomme, who moves to 22.98 for 8. Are they going to break the 100 barrier? Not a bad start for Ben Stokes, but Brendan McCullum looking very relaxed up in the dressing room as well.
You can't imagine him getting too stressed, can you?
No. He's a pretty chilled sort of character, isn't he?
Yeah, seems to be very pragmatic.
Although, I remember working with him for the 2019 World Cup final, and he was pretty stressed for the final few overs of that one.
I think we all were, weren't
yes. De Grandhomme tapping the ball back down the pitch to Anderson. Peter in Holborn emails us with a question for Sir Alistair. Been great to see you in the runs this summer, but what can you tell us about your recent match? About Bedfordshire Farmers recently? A 15-year-old bowler called Kyron.
Well, firstly, I doubt that was Peter who's emailed that in. It looks very much suspiciously like Adam Mountford's handwriting there. I was kind of wondering how to address this, to be honest with you. I've been going through my mind from the moment Aggers texted me only seemed like 30 seconds after I got out or appeared on Twitter. So yeah, I was playing for the Beds Farmers in a cup game at Potton, and yeah, the opposition got 100 and Potton got 156, I think. Their opening batsman got 100, and it was a 12 8-ball overs, and he murdered us. I bowled the last over and went for 14. And then I'm batting at 5. I got 20 and I got out bowled by a 15-year-old. So now, do I sit here and say I wasn't really trying and then you look really arrogant, or do I just have to take the flat from Aggers, from every other person who's mentioned? I even walking into the ground today, 2 people mentioned it to me. So
I think if you hadn't scored a run in county cricket this season, then maybe, but
I decided that I'm just going to take it on the chin, and I got bowled by a 15-year-old. Fair play to him.
Well done, Kyron.
I think also the worst bit about that was I came walking off, and I sat on like the picnic bench in front of the picnic bench. There was a space in front of the picnic bench, and on the picnic bench behind, I had my back to them, was Kieran's mum and dad. And obviously they didn't quite know how to talk to me, as if were they expecting a tantrum and stuff. But it was I had a little bit of red face leaving that ground. But I'd like to say I could have bought him a beer, but he was too young to even have a beer at the end of the game. So
a future England hopeful.
Hey, it's certainly got potential. Certainly, he swings it out. Too good for me.
We're losing plenty of England bowlers to injury at the moment, so there's every opportunity if you're a young fast bowler playing club cricket at the moment. But what a moment for Matty Potts. We've got a break in play currently because the ball has been checked, and what the umpires look for is that it can fit through the 2 rings. They have these handcuff-like rings that they try and get the ball through. One of them, it wasn't able to go through. So they're changing the ball currently.
It's been one of the things which happened a lot in county cricket this year. The ball has been changed far more than I can remember them being changed. Even as early as the 4th or 5th over, I've heard that the ball hasn't gone through the hoops, and I think it takes the umpire's opinion out of it, whether it's round or not. If it doesn't go through it, you carry on. If it doesn't, you're allowed to change it. I think in county cricket you're allowed 2 failed attempts, and then you're not for every ball. And it's certainly been an issue which is plagued, I think, county cricket. I mean, it's not a big, it's just going so soft and out of shape, and I don't think any bowler mind bowling on flat wickets, but I think a real soft, out of shape ball doesn't really do them any favour. But luckily they've taken drinks, so we're not wasting any time.
Absolutely. So I think they're not far away from resuming play. So in the meantime, we're going to get you to carry on talking about the balls that you've had in county cricket this season. I understand that the seam of this one a lot more pronounced today, hence the movement off the pitch, and we're going to bring in Dan Norcross.
Thank you, Isha. So drinks have been taken a little bit early while they change the ball. 3 slips are in. It's been quite the first hour since lunch. New Zealand went into lunch at 39 for 7. They are currently 98 for 8, which is 59 for 2 in 10.4. Yes, it's all been happening. We've had LBWs given and turned down. There have been some overturns. Are you off? Alistair Cook, are you off as Anderson starts a new over from the pavilion end? That's flicked gloriously through mid-wicket. What a shot that is by de Grandhomme. He's a beautiful player to watch, and he picks up 4 runs. 100 comes up. 102 for 8. And that was a very crisply timed flick to a full ball on the pads. As one England captain, Sir Alistair Cook, departs, another England captain, former England captain, Michael Vaughan, joins me. Hello.
Yeah, afternoon, Dan. Afternoon, everyone. Yeah, it's a nice little flick, isn't it, from de Grandhomme. I've enjoyed New Zealand after lunch.
Yes,
I think the message was quite clear.
Anderson in, left alone by de Grandhomme. A little shorter, goes through low to Folkes. End of the over, a protracted over because of that change of ball. 35 gone, 102 for 8. De Grandhomme 26. Patel has 7.
Yeah, Jameson's first few deliveries after lunch gave us an indication of the plan of attack.
Yes.
Swing. Get the scoreboard ticking. If we get bowled out, we get bowled out in a few amount of overs, so there's still a bit of moisture left in the pitch, and potentially it'll do exactly the same when we have the ball in hand, rather than bat slowly, bat for 60 overs, get to 120, 130, and you give the pitch that little bit longer to get a bit drier. I mean, I still think now it's a decent Test match wicket. Just done enough. England have caught well, bowled nicely, and New Zealand are just rusty, aren't they? They've just not played enough red ball cricket.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen Ben Stokes yet, and that was one of the fears that people had when Ben Stokes was made captain, that he'd be forced to bowl himself and over bowl himself. And well, combination of the way New Zealand have played and the way Anderson, Broad and Potts have bowled has meant that Stokes hasn't needed to use himself, and he's still not bringing himself on. Instead, Matthew Potts, who's on debut, has taken 3 for 8. He's got a chance here to get a 5 for on debut and get up on the Lord's Honours board in double quick time. 2 wickets to go down. And he's got ball in hand coming round the wicket to Ajaz Patel. 3 slips in place. Oh, appeal for LBW. He really likes this. And he has been given. First ball back, and Ajaz Patel almost instantly refers, but I don't think this is an inside edge because he's taken a little while, a shake of the head. They've got 3 reviews. They're obviously going to use it.
Umpire to directly, we have a review for LBW. Original decision is out. It's a fair delivery. Front on first, please.
Michael Vaughan's giving it.
Yeah, I don't think there's an inside edge on this one. I think it's missed the bat.
It's a bit high.
Yeah, it doesn't look like batting bowl. We'll just confirm that with Ultra Edge, please.
I think it's going to be an umpire's call, clipping the top of the stumps.
I think it's going to be a classic unlucky number 10's dismissal here. It's a left-hander, don't forget. Patel coming round the wicket is Potts. It's got him on the back leg. I think it's missed the bat. Be very surprised if there's any inside edge on this. We've had a lot of inside edges today.
Yeah, clear gap between bat and ball. You can go to ball tracking when ready.
It's hit him in front of middle.
Original decision is out. Impact is in line.
Oh,
hitting the wickets.
No.
You go back to Michael on field and stick with your original decision about your signal now.
Well, no, it was very out. It was hitting middle and leg and about 4 inches from the top of the stump. So New Zealand lose a review. I'd be surprised if that's important. But more importantly, Matthew Potts on debut now has 4 for 8.
Yeah,
and there's 1 wicket left to fall.
Yeah, Andy, Scott Boland in the winter, what was his figures?
6 for 9.
6 for 9. I think that's about right at the MCG. Well, 4 for 8 at the home of cricket. Can he get one more?
Oh, come on. He's got 5 balls at the number 11, Trent Bolt. And Trent Bolt plays only one way. So
expansive.
Expand like that. Yes, that's quite a nice euphemism for what I would call reckless devil-may-care
out there.
slogging.
Trent Bolt's, he's charged out there, Trent. Well, he's still running it.
Yeah.
He thinks he's playing in the IPL where you have to get that.
Ajaz Patel is not yet now he's in the long room, and Trent Bolt is at the stumps. You don't see that very often.
He's charged out there. He's ready.
Now then, Andy. Yes.
Scott Boland's debut 6 for 7 in 4 overs.
Yeah.
That was second innings of his debut.
Yeah, so it was quite something. But Matthew Potts is 4 for 8 in 8.1. And with Trent Boult coming out to bat, can he do it? Can he get a fifer on debut? How many English players have got 5-wicket hauls on debut at Lord's? Ooh. Trying to think. Yes, that's
Cork had a 7 for, but that was second innings in 1995 against West Indies.
Is that his debut? Is that debut? Yeah.
Graham Onions at 5 for 38 against West Indies.
Was that first innings?
2009. That was first innings.
Okay, right. 3 slips are in, and a rather tricksy short point who's about 3 pitch widths away. There's a backward point, straightish, mid-off and mid-on, mid-wicket. Here comes Potts into Boult, and Boult gets turned round by this thick outside edge. It runs down a backward point to Grondon, desperate to get on strike, was halfway down the wicket, but was sent back by Boult. There's no run, 102 for 9.
I think, Dan, just study Trent Boult with the way that he bats. He's always whacking his pad with his gloves. He's already done.
Yeah.
Watch him now, and he that's in the pull shot.
Yeah.
He'll wave his bat in his hands. Look, there you go. He just gives it a little bit of a whirl.
Bit of Ravage Danger.
Then he'll scratch his guard. There you go. Left foot scratches the guard.
Here comes Potts into the crouching Boult, and Boult moves some way towards square leg before defending off the back foot, back up the wicket to the bowler, and there's no run. Andy, you're itching.
There have been 8 bowlers who've taken a fifer for England on Test debut at Lord's. I mentioned Onions and Jimmy Anderson, of course, a ridiculously long time ago, May 2003, 5 for 73 against Zimbabwe. Before that, Nick Cook, Len Caldwell, Alec Bedser.
It's one of the cheaper fifers, if he gets it at the moment. Here's Potts into Boult. Boult moves across his stumps, pushes the short point, and then puts bat in the air. No run, he shouts. You're right, he's doing the night. He's practiced the ramp.
It was a bit like Marnus that last.
It was very Marnusian.
Yeah. The ball before his routine, he actually walked behind the stumps, went beyond them and behind and back round.
You don't want to be batting there. That's not an ideal guard. Wicket keeper. 2 wicket keepers, please, Hump.
Fine leg's just gone a bit finer
for the pull, and there's a man out at deep square leg. Boult does like to play the pull. Does Potts know that? He's going to bang one in short. Here he is. Into Boult. No, full. Oh, he's exposed his stumps and he's smeared it back past the bowler. It's running up towards the boundary, very straight. Broad's there, and amazingly, they've come back for a 3rd run off the 5th ball of the over. Well, that's an intriguing decision, because now the field will come in to save the one, you would imagine, with just 1 ball left in this over. Boult's off the mark. He showed all those stumps there, and he didn't really time it. Potts, though, with those 3 runs, has gone into double figures. He has 4 for 11.
Again, if you look at Trent Boult, I think what's happened, he's come from the IPL, which is obviously coloured clothing. He's arrived in England, he's got brand new kit on. Brand new pads, boots, brand new bat.
Last ball of the over. Potts into de Grandhomme, who pulls it vigorously through the onside. They've run 1. They ought to stick at 1, but they haven't. They've come back for a 2nd, which means that Boult will be on strike at the start of the over. It's all a bit confusing, I have to say. 107 for 9. De Grandhomme has 28. Boult has 3. Anderson's got 4 for 46. Potts now 4 for 13. And in theory, it's a race to the honours board between Anderson, who is a man who's played more Test matches than anyone for England, pretty much. And he has, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has.
Yes. And Matthew Potts, who's played as many Test matches for England as all the 1 Test wonders.
Yeah, I reckon Trent Boult, it's like the day after a kid's birthday, isn't it? Brand new kit. Nice ovation for Matthew Potts. And he's got brand new gloves.
There's a lot of brand new kit going here. There's brand new kit to brand new kit with Potts bowling to Boult there. So now Anderson's a wise old owl. What's he going to do? He knows that Boult is going to come after him. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if they put someone back on the offside for the smear. They're not going to. Pope's going at point. 3 slips. Square leg, mid-wicket, mid-on, mid-off. Anderson runs in from the pavilion end. Boult moves across his stumps, gets a thick inside edge, and manages to manufacture a ball from outside off stump somehow down to Potts. Long leg for a single. He gets off strike. 108 for 9. Boult to 4.
Well, there's potential fifer at both ends. If Jimmy Anderson takes the final wicket, it would be his 8th 5-wicket haul at Lords, which would tie the most fifers by a pace bowler on a single test ground. Ian Botham also had 8 here in 15 tests. This is Anderson's 26th test. Muralitharan had 14 5-wicket hauls, the great Sri Lankan spinner, at the SSC ground in Colombo. He had 11 in the old ground in Kandy and 11 in Gaul as well.
McGrath must have had a fair few at Melbourne and Sydney, would he? At Warren as well, I wonder. Listen, in now to de Grandhomme, still got the 3 slips in, and de Grandhomme pushes forward in defence to a fullish ball, plays it back to Anderson, who fields off his own bowling.
The most fifers McGrath had on a single ground was 4 at the Gabba.
Oh. And Shane Warne? Because in Australia, they basically they've played the bulk of their cricket at 6 grounds, right?
Yeah.
5 grounds.
4 at the SCG was his most.
Really? Here's Anderson running in. De Grandhomme pushes into a massive gap on the offside. They've run the first quickly, but 1 is all they'll get, which brings Bolt back onto strike. Excuse me while I sneeze. 109 for 9. Bolt back on strike.
Bolt kind of manoeuvres himself around with his kind of delivery routine, as if he goes looking for conversations. Like walks that far, and he's always looking at the fielders. If he says, "Anyone want to chat?"
He feels like a convivial kind of chap.
Yeah.
3 slips in and a ring field as Anderson is in. And Bolt lets this go by with a bit of a flourish outside the off stump. Can't be tempted to a wide one, but then practices the carve through backward point.
So he's now walked just to the offside probably onto the next pitch, and then he's gone to the leg side onto the pitch by the side of the pitch that we're playing on.
It's a gregarious one, isn't it? It's not like Jonathan Trott, who used to get into his own brain and then sort of like sidle off towards square leg, or Chris Tavares. This is a sort of looking for company kind of walk, isn't it?
Jonathan Trott was particular, and he did it the same every ball, so it became a routine.
Here comes Anderson. Bolt plays the uppercut. Has gone down through some deep backward point. It's being pursued by Bairstow and by Ollie Pope, and I think they've come back for 3, which will thoroughly delight Matthew Potts if Anderson can keep de Grandhomme at this end with 1 ball left in the over. 112 for 9, Bolt to 7.
Yeah, so really great players. You know, they generally deliver a routine, and you just watch them and you can see it. Ball after ball, they just continuously do it. At the minute, Trent Bolt's routine's been different every delivery. He's not quite worked it out.
Last ball of the over. Anderson into de Grandhomme. De Grandhomme punches off the back foot really well. That's going to run away for 4 through backward point up towards the grandstand. He's played a couple of really nice back foot punches as de Grandhomme. With that, he moves into the 30s. He has 33, 116 for 9 at the end of the over, but Potts is going to get to have another go.
Do you think Matthew Potts is the kind of character that that last ball he was thinking,
yeah,
come on, Jimmy,
go for 4.
Yeah.
Well, 4 or nothing. Yeah.
Just let me have a go at Trent Bolt.
I'm sure he was.
Yeah. I'd hope he is.
Yeah. Jimmy Anderson's now bowled 15 overs, 8 before lunch, in which he took 2 for 5, 7 since lunch, in which he's taken 2 for 50.
2 for 50 and 7. Yes. Well, I mean, they've played against him very, very differently, haven't they? And the 2 he has taken have been off short balls caught at long leg.
Crickviz point out it's the first time he's taken 2 wickets with short balls in an innings since England played in New Zealand early in 2018.
Thank you. I should imagine he bowled a lot more balls in that innings as well. So, here's Potts looking for that fifer. Runs into Bolt, and Bolt lets this go by just outside the off stump, around 4th, 5th stump probably. Went through pretty low to folks. The pitch looks to be easing a bit.
Yeah, it generally does. I mean, the ball's getting a bit older. Pitch will just lose that element of moisture.
Bolt's gone off for his walk. He's gone off to bang his knee as well. It's not quite like Steve Smith, where you get the sort of pat of the box and the bang of the head and all manner of things. As in comes Potts, and that's cut into the ground and stopped at short point. That went pretty sharply, and It looks like there are 3 subs on the field. That's Craig Overton, who's fielding at that short point position. Broad and Root are off, as well as Leach. So who is that at square leg? Wait a... I mean, have you got your whites, Michael?
I would say that the one person that they certainly don't want as a fielding substitute, Daniel, is myself.
I think you might get in ahead of Tuffers.
I doubt it.
You think that would go to 5 sets?
Yes, I believe. Well, maybe. Yeah, I think I had him covered. Just who's going off?
What's
here?
Potts is going off?
Oh no, Potts is going off.
So no. So what's happening here? Is there anybody left? So Potts is bowled, just 2 balls in that over, and now he's having to stride off. Oh, what a massive disappointment for this young man. He was just 1 wicket away from his 5th, and I'll wait to find out what's wrong with him. Ben Stokes has taken the ball off him, will complete the over. A big swing and a miss from Bolt. But there's drama here. There are so many players off the field. England have only been out there for 37 and a half overs, and they're now... What can we see? He's
walked just beside the pavilion. He's turned right. He's now going through the pavilion
up to the
doors, just on the left-hand side, next to the I think it's the president's room or the drawing room.
I think Broad is coming back on. Is that right? I think I can see by the pavilion. But Stokes is in, and Bolt lets this go by outside the off stump. There are 2 more balls left in this over. Robin Das from Essex is the other sub. It's comings and goings. It's like, well, what is it like? It's extraordinary. People are coming on and off the field. I think one sub is now departing. Oh no, he's going down a long leg. I beg his pardon. There's so much going on out there, and at the same time nothing, as Stokes runs away from us from the nursery end into Trent Bolt, who has another swing and a miss to a ball that went away from him, left him, went down the slope. 116 for 9. And this is a bit of a concern. England will be thinking, well, we've got New Zealand in a great position. I think we can see
Stuart Broad's coming back on.
He's going to come back on at the end of this over. So
I didn't see... I mean, Matthew Potts clearly has done something, but I didn't quite work out what it was, whether it's a hamstring's gone or a side strain maybe. I'm not too sure what the problem is with Matthew Potts.
Quite comfortably. He didn't seem to be favouring one leg or the other.
Maybe his side's gone.
But he went straight off, didn't he? Well, Stokes did talk about him bowling with a stiff side the other day, as Stokes is in, down the leg side. A good tumbling take by Folkes prevents a bye. End of the over. An over that was bowled 2 balls of it by Matthew Potts, who's now had to leave the field. And 4 balls from Ben Stokes, 116 for 9, Bolt 7. De Grandhomme 33. And this is a bit of an issue. And I'm going to try and leave Jonathan Agnew to work out what on earth's going off out there after some words from Michael Vaughan.
Well, I think Joe Root's back out there. Stuart Broad is back out there. So it's good to see that those 2 are back on the pitch, but it's a real concern for Matthew Potts, because he just walked straight off. He bowled a couple of balls of the over, and then he just strolled straight off. So do you reckon a side, Aggers?
Well, he has had a side strain this season. In fact, Ben Stokes was talking about it the other day as being showing his character, if you like, and that he carried on despite having that side strain against Glamorgan. He bowled them out and won the game. The
farmer behind us, Alistair said it, calf.
Oh, calf.
Maybe he's stretching his calf.
I didn't see it. Oh, right, okay. Won't dare argue with him. Then comes Anderson. He's looking for his 5th. And it's defended and played away into the onside by de Grandhomme. He's played very patiently by his standards. 33 from 41 balls.
Well, I reckon he's played in a way that if you're an England batter, you wouldn't be too concerned about the pitch.
Yeah.
The pitch is fine. It's bound to have some element of movement. You know how well Southey bowls here at Lord's, so he's going to be a real threat, but it shouldn't worry you too much.
Anderson from the pavilion end bowls, and that's turned by de Grandhomme into the leg side. They got their eye on 2 as the fielders come running in. They'll get there as well. The throw comes skimming into the far end.
That is very much, if you see the leg side field, Aggers, that they've got set, this is like an IPL field where you have 4 fielders out on the leg side, and you see batters try and hit it just with enough power into the onside to nick a second. That's what de Grandhomme did there. You've got long on back, you've got a cow corner in place, square leg on the boundary, fine leg quite fine on the boundary, cover point on the boundary. Mid-off's gone a bit deeper.
It's a very strange field for 118 for 9. I mean, it really is. Everyone on the leg side on the boundary. Anderson comes in, bowls to de Grandhomme, on the back foot now, playing it pleasantly away into the offside this time. And the ball swiftly returned by...
The more I watch these kind of fields, Aggers, and I'm sure when I was cat, I would have done exactly the same, but the more I watch, sat away from the emotions of the game, the more I think that you don't need to go for this. The more I think that you just set an orthodox, so you might have one more fielder back, so you might have a cow corner, but you bring your mid off and your mid off on into the run saving positions, and if he wants to hit it over the top,
go for it.
Good luck, yeah. But I'll guarantee that someone like Jimmy Anderson, if he tries it once, he may get away with it. Second, but you'd get him eventually.
Yeah. 119 for 9 is the score. Anderson's on the way, and he bowls to Bolt, who drives him nicely too. Anderson there put an outstretched left leg in the way, but the ball missed it, and there's a long chase for Broad, who every time a bowler dives at the moment you sort of hold your breath, but he's fielded that one okay, and more importantly he's got up.
I mean, let's wait and see what the injury is to Matthew Potts, but if he's another addition to the fast bowling injury list for England, Saqib Mahmood, Chris Wokes, Ollie Stone, Jofra, Mark Wood,
Fisher,
Potts.
Yep. Anderson bowls, and that's pushed away into the offside, not necessarily well timed by de Grandhomme. He'll pick up another single. He's played really well. 37 not out from 45 balls, 123 for 9.
Where's Parky? We could do with the spinner.
We could do with him now.
With the leg spinner.
Now, Anderson's got one ball at the number 11. To get his 32nd fifer. He'll be his 8th here at Lord's. He'll be equal with Ian Botham. I don't know if he is aware of any of all that sort of stuff. But that's the threshold on which he stands now. 32nd 5-wicket haul in Test cricket. Man coming down to sort of fly slip here as well. Short third man, you'd call that. Bolt on strike. He's on 10. Anderson waits for a moment. Strides in past the umpire. He bowls. Oh, he's hammered him into the offside. A terrific shot from Trent Bolt. Fresh off the IPL. And he's hammered that past Ben Stokes at cover for 4. Fine stroke, 127 for 9. And Bolt moves on to 14. De Grandhomme 37. There's been so much going on today. It's been difficult to keep up with it all, but
yeah, but this again, the way the tails just wag slightly, it's just again an indication that this England attack is one that just requires that firecracker. It requires that bit of mystery with the spin, or world class in terms of spin, and it does require pace.
45 for 7 New Zealand were. Extraordinary really, but 45 for 7. Just seeing my phone buzz there, and is that going to be telling us what's happened to Potts? I think it's actually saying they don't know. Yeah, that's a response from the England dressing room. We've asked the question, do you know why Potts went off? Not yet is the answer. So Stokes is continuing from the nursery end, and he bowls outside the off stump. De Grandhomme wants 2 here. He'll get them as well. He's absolutely picked the perfect place there in the offside, bisecting the gap.
Yeah, I guess this is the first time we're looking at Ben Stokes tactically as a captain, because when you're getting wickets at the start of the day, it's very, very easy. It's simple. Now, can he manoeuvre his fielders? He's got 3-4 fielders out on the onside. Mid-on is not all the way. It's a position that he's put Jimmy Anderson 3/4. 2 slips, cover point behind square on the offside. Johnny Bairstow has come from third now to short extra cover. Mid-off's back halfway in Stuart Broad.
In goes Stokes, bowls 2 to Grandhomme, very full. The ball slides away off an edge. Again, they'll want 2 here if they possibly can. The fielder circles round. Oh, there's going to be a run out. Well, there should be a run out. But it was a wild throw. And for some reason there, de Grandhomme didn't respond to the second run, and Bolt wanted it. He knew it was on. But all that needed was an accurate throw from the deep. And that would have ended in a run out. But
tail enders.
Yeah.
That's what happens, Aggers. You guys batting down the bottom end. You don't quite know how to say yes and no.
I think he was right to go.
Quite an easy two there.
It was. De Grandhomme on 41. Stokes again runs in and bowls to him. He drives him hard into the offside. Very nicely stopped. There's a crowd catch by Bairstow. At extra cover, he says, "Calm down," to those in the mound stand who thought that was driven in the air. 131 for 9. It is a strange field because de Grandhomme really hasn't played any shot in anger. He's just
playing it
off the runs.
But with this field, with those fielders on the onside, quite square the wicket on the bounce, you've got to bowl the odd short ball. Try and get him pulling the ball to that side of the ground.
Yeah, the deep point as well. 131 for 9. De Grandhomme's on 41. Stokes runs in, bowls to him, and it goes past the outside edge as de Grandhomme drives.
Was to illustrate how de Grandhomme's manoeuvred the ball. Before those 2 dot balls, he'd scored off 13 of the previous 17 deliveries that he'd faced.
He's just played, really, but they've gone to a very deep field here.
There's a little bit of swing there for Ben Stokes. It's been seam movement pretty much throughout the day, but Stokes getting the ball to swing through the air.
And he goes once more, bowls. That's on the off stump, pushed away into that offside. They'll pick up a single. And the throw there, is that hit Bolt?
No, it's not.
They didn't let go of it. He aimed to throw it.
Lost his
Bolt
balance.
dived, thinking the throw was going to come whistling in. So we've got the number 11 on strike again. It's 14 not out. Can England wrap this up now? There's a thoroughly aggravating runs that have been added here by these last 3 wickets. These two came together at 102, so they put on 30. And Bolt has, he's made his fair share. He's scored 14 of them. There's 3 balls to go. There's 1 ball to go in the over. And in goes Stokes. He's there and he bowls on the leg stump, and it's flicked away to the leg side. He's caught at mid-wicket by Pope. And New Zealand are all out for 132. Rather ambitious stroke there from Bolt. And they're bowled out in 40 overs. And Stokes picking up the last. Handy 30 runs added by the last pair. And de Grandhomme will finish with, in the circumstances, an excellent 42 not out. A nice catch there from Pope, which has been a feature of today too. There's been some excellent catches taken by England, who are now going to be batting.
Yeah, very impressive from England. Good catch from Ollie Pope to his right, full stretch. Yeah, the catching's been excellent. The bowling's been very good. A little bit of a kind of moment for New Zealand there with the batting hand hitting the ball around the park. England didn't quite stick to their principles of bowling the right length, just went a little bit short, a little bit wide, but I guess that can happen when a team comes out swinging the willow. But overall, magnificent. It's the foundation that was set by that opening burst by Broad and Anderson. They just set the tone. Got a couple of early wickets. Bairstow's catch was right up there with the best to trigger the start. So far, so good for Ben Stokes, and fitting that he gets the last wicket. He gives himself the chance to bowl and gets the last wicket. I guess the worry is Matthew Potts and what's happened to him. Jack Leach, real disappointment for Jack Leach. His first Test match here in England since 2019, and he has now been replaced by Matt Parkinson with that concussion. But the perfect start for England. You can't ask for any more than that. You're now batting in the afternoon. The pitch is bound to have lost a bit of its moisture. But I like your face, Aggers, when you say it's now time for England to bat, and you had a little smile.
Well, 4 months of watching England in the winter, not seeing them win a single game.
You're never quite sure what you're going to get.
Well, I think the trouble is if you've become a bit sure of what you're going to get. And we'll see how this optimism fares against this very good New Zealand attack. I mean, let's be fair, Trent Bolt was playing in the IPL final only 4 days ago. So you wonder how he will have shaped up. I mean, he's been bowling, of course. Yeah.
Well, consistently, England are 30 for 3. And they have been for a while. And if they are, New Zealand are back in the Test match. But I just get a sense that, it's difficult to change mentality quickly. But, I just think maybe a penny or two may have dropped with this England batting lineup. You're looking at someone like Zach Crawley. He's got a few runs in county cricket, but not huge runs.
He's got 100 yet, has he?
He's got a point to prove. Alex Lee's at the top of the order. He looked okay in the Caribbean, but again, a huge amount of something to prove. Ollie Pope at number 3, a massive amount to prove. and then that engine room of experience at 4, 5 and 6. New Zealand will bowl pretty well because they generally do, and it's just whether this England top 3 can cope with 1 or 2 decent deliveries, have a bit of fortune, and then just give themselves a chance to be there overnight. It's the kind of day, with the way that the pitch is played, that England should be thinking, wait a minute, can we get to somewhere nearby close and not have too many wickets on the scoreboard?
Lee's did look the part in the Caribbean. He's got a good technique, and we've been looking, obviously, Burns and Sibley over the last couple of years. I mean, he does look like an opening batsman.
Yeah, he can play. I mean, he's had a career. Started at Yorkshire, did okay, and then he struggled, and he went to Durham, and he's done well there. Changes work for him. He's played a few Test matches now, 3, and now you're back home in your own conditions. He'll know that he'll need a good score or two over the course of this series to really cement his place at the top of the order for quite a foreseeable future. To do that, he needs 100, and he's got to be consistent. And more importantly, that combination at the top with Zach Crawley has to look a very settled one. What you want to do is, when Andrew Strauss and Alistair Cook used to walk out, you kind of felt quite calm, didn't you, as a commentator, no doubt, and as a spectator. The opening combo for England for too long now, we've kind of watched and go, it won't be long before they lose a quick one. So that combination has to work. I'm intrigued with Ollie Pope. I think he can play. I think he's got a real good game on him, but he's just made too many mistakes, and he's just a bit frantic when he first goes out there. And that was batting at 5 and 6. Can he just calm himself down and trust his technique, batting at number 3, to give himself the platform to bat for a long period of time?
Zach Crawley, I'm just looking back at the last Test match, Grenada. His challenge is that big drive early. It's caught an extra cover in the first innings there, driving. Caught second slip driving in the second innings.
It's a big issue for him. Can he put it away, or can he play it better? I mean, there's 2 ways of looking at it. Don't play the shot at all early, or play it a lot better than he has been doing. Can he get that head a bit closer to the ball? When he drives, he generally leans back. He doesn't get that head over that front pad quite as much as he should do. One thing for sure is Tim Southey will offer him the drive.
Yes, he will.
It's an absolute guarantee that in the next 20 minutes Zach Crawley will get offered a half volley or two, just outside, with three or 4 slips of weight in the outside edge. What's he going to do with it? It's fascinating.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a remarkable first day. Let's run through that scorecard. I'm just swiping away the Grenada scorecard. New Zealand winning the toss, batting first, and wickets falling immediately. Anderson's 7th ball back. He had Young brilliantly caught by Bairstow at slip, who then caught Latham off a rebound. That was 2 for 2, 7 for 3. When Conway was again caught by Bairstow, more regulation catch this time off the bowling of Broad for 3. Kane Williamson, well, he faced up to Matt Potts, his first over, and he edged the 5th ball to Folkes to go for 2. 12 for 4, 27 for 5 when Darryl Mitchell played on a short ball that skidded onto him a bit, rushed him. Again from Potts, he was out for 13. Tom Blundell got to 14. He was bowled by Potts, playing no stroke. 36 for 6 that was. 45 for 7 when Kyle Jamieson, who came out looking like he was playing a T20 game after lunch, and pulled Anderson down to Potts at long leg for 6. Then a stand of 41 between Southey and de Grandhomme. Southey made 26 from 23 balls. He was eventually caught in the deep by Potts off Anderson again. That was 86 for 8, 102 for 9 when Patel was LBW to Potts for 7. Potts then left the field, and we still don't know why, but clearly some sort of injury situation, because he left mid-over. Stokes continued that over, bowled a couple more, and he had the last wicket, which was Bolt, caught by Pope at mid-wicket for 14. So de Grandhomme was 42 not out, 132 all out in 40 overs. Anderson 4 for 66 from 16 overs. Broad 1 for 45 from 13. Stokes 1 for 5 from 1.4, but clearly the standout performance, although we still don't know what's happened to him since, Matthew Potts in his first Test match and his first innings of bowling, 9.2 overs, 4 maidens, 4 for 13. Remarkable figures. And well, this is good news. I think we're hoping that from the dressing room we're hearing that he's just got cramp, which is hopefully turns out to be right, Tuffers, because if it is merely cramp, that can be sorted out, treated, and he'll be back on the field again and he'll be able to bowl. But you don't want anything more serious than that.
No, well, it must have been something pretty
instant.
Instant, because you don't walk off when you're on a 4-4 with Trimble
and
you debut at Lord's. So let's hope that is pretty straightforward. Get the old, what is it, salt lick or something?
Oh, salt lick. You get it to horses, don't you? Or cattle, I think. I think cattle have salt lick. Donkeys and things.
Or a couple of salt tablets and a bit of a rub down.
I think maybe that sounds a bit more like it.
But what a debut for him.
I know.
I mean, crikey. I mean, the damage was done, wasn't it, before lunch? And if anything, those two little last partnerships for New Zealand have got themselves out of a real hole, haven't they?
Well, the last 3 wickets, Andy, from 45, I can't do maths and talk at the same time.
No.
From 45 to 132.
Yeah.
The last 3 added.
87 from 15 overs and 1 ball.
87 for 3, yeah.
If they'd have gone bang, 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 would have been in all sorts of trouble. At least they've got some kind of score on the board. But I mean, well bowled England. They've come out there. The catching was so good, wasn't it? Those 3 from Johnny Bairstow. It just gets you going. We saw so many drops during the winter, didn't we? Of slip catches and outfield catches going down. It just demoralises you. But if they go to hand, it gets you on that roll. And England bowled in really good areas. Great to see Anderson back, looking like he's never been away. Matthew Potts, what a debut.
So the players are taking the field, and New Zealand are already there, and I can see England's openers striding out towards the middle, and Zach Crawley is going to be tempted by Tim Southey.
Yeah,
these pitched up outswingers, that drive. I mean, he plays it very well, but it does get him out as well, and it gets him out early. And how patient's he going to be? But in fact, he's going to be at the non-strikers end, and the left-handed Alex Lees is going to face first of all. So he's got to be careful for the LBW here. Southey pitching the ball up, looking to swing it into that left-hander. The slips are lined up as well for the one that goes straight on. So there's 4 slips. As Williamson, I suspect, feels here we've got to get some early wickets here.
Yeah, it won't be straightforward for England. As you say, the ball has swung, and there has been a little bit of movement just off the pitch as well. So I didn't see a lot of Lees in the Caribbean. John, you were over there.
He looks solid.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a good technique. Here's the first ball. Southey's on his way, and he bowls to the left-handed Lees. Comes in, bowls to him. Pushed away into the leg side, going for that quick single. The throw misses the stumps at the far end. Wow. Well, if Brendan McCullum said, "Get out there, lads, I want to see some positive batting from you," that was an interesting start. Pushed straight to mid-on, and they ran.
I mean, everyone likes to get off and all, don't they? But he had to get his skates on there, as you were saying there, John. It's just swung back onto his sort of toes, and he's dug it out, but he's sort of always
was just home.
Yeah,
but
you don't want any run-outs.
Well, that was interesting.
Yep. What a start for Brendan McCullum. Looked very calm, didn't he, sat there, didn't he, just taking it all in. But I mean, couldn't ask for a better performance from England with the ball.
Crawley on strike, Southey's on the way, moves in, bowls to his edge and lands just in front of third slip. And now Lees has set off again. What's wrong with him?
Wow.
He's scurrying back into his ground at the far end. I think Lees just needs sort of a reprogram here. Alex, you're not playing in the blast.
No. Deep breath. Everybody calm down.
What he's up to there. He's set off for a run. It was fielded by third slip.
But there again, you were just saying there that Crawley and nicking off. It doesn't get a big stride in, does he? For a big, tall man, he just pokes that bat out at it, and that just didn't carry the slip.
1 for no wicket. Southey's on his way, bowls, and that's driven firmly to mid-off. And Southey looks at him knowingly, saying, "I don't mind you playing that. I don't mind you playing that at all."
Test cricket.
What a frenetic start.
Love it. He just can't stop running, Alex.
No.
He's like Mo Farah out there. Just wants to run.
It does.
Just need a bit of a breath here, England.
You can hear the crowd level too. I mean, some of them are saying, "What's going on?" 1 for no wicket. Crawley's over his bat. There's 4 slips lined up as the experienced Southey runs in and bowls a beauty, swings away and beats him outside the off stump. And full length, and Crawley will go up and do a bit of gardening, but that's what Southey's going to give you.
Just like to see him get a bit more sort of positive in that forward defence. So when there's a great ball pitched off stump and just gone up the hill for sure, but as you say, for a tall man, just try and get that forward a bit more instead of just sort of poking the bat there and leaving it there. He's been working on it. What an opportunity though, one of these two to get in. Pitch would have flattened out a bit.
In comes Southey, and he bowls, and again it's a push drive, really, out into the offside, up as far as Williamson at mid-off, who gets to work polishing the ball, rubbing it. Still not licking it, or licking the fingers. I think saliva's still... I think we're still in COVID protocols as far as that's concerned. Yeah, you can rub sweat on, but I think saliva onto the fingers, which of course used to be allowed. I think that's still a lingering protocol.
Small to the back usually gets a bit sweaty for the old fast bowlers.
It can.
It's probably the best spot.
The last ball of the over. Southey's on his way, bowls a thick edge, and Crawley's off the mark. Ball runs down to third man, pursued by, well, 2 New Zealanders, and there's a relay throw back to the wicketkeeper from Latham. So, an eventful first over. And it's 3 for no wicket. So, England are 129 behind. Tea is 20 minutes away. It seems to be over cricket. Yeah, still 47 overs left. I think we'll get too near that tonight, Tuffers. Thoughts and views, Simon Mann's coming in.
Yeah, England just need to calm down here a little bit. As you say, what a first over. Nearly a couple of run-outs. Alex Lees was just on his bike, couldn't stop running. One good thing about bowling a side out, though, for a low score is you just think just 1 or 2 partnerships, that's all you need, or one big score by one of your top 5 or 6 will get you to that total. But they've got to be watchful, because it's still doing a bit. Simon.
Hello, Thomas.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you, mate?
I'm very well.
Good.
Trent Boult is going to bowl.
Yeah.
I'm amazed that he's playing in this test match when you consider he was playing in India on Sunday. Normally they like to ease players in these days, don't they? Get their conditioning right, and Boult. Anyway, Boult left arm over, goes into bowl to the left-handed Alex Lees, and Lees is struck on the pad there, sets off the single.
Stop running.
Tupper says no from the commentary box end. And so did Zach Crawley as well.
Wow. I reckon he probably had a bit of first class, didn't he? Bit of first class, nice flat bed.
No, it's not so much that. It's more that, you're bowling in 16 matches, I think he played in the IPL, bowling in 4 over. Well, you're not bowling 4 over chunks, you're bowling 2 overs, 1 over, 1 over. But you need sort of slightly different conditioning for a test match where you got to bowl 20 overs in a day or 18 overs a day. Boult bowls outside the off stump. Nothing from Lees there, taken by Blundell, wicket-keeper.
He was probably asked, how do you feel? And he probably thought to himself, what, test match at Lords? Don't get that opportunity too many times. I'm fit as a fiddle, thank you, Skip.
How many test matches has he played at Lords? Because he just the one. This is his second, is it? Because he missed last time.
Yeah.
They delayed him participating until the second test match at Edgbaston, which of course New Zealand won, and then they went on to win the World Test Championship at Southampton last summer when they beat India in the final, and that got a gripping final day.
It was.
It looked like it was going to be a rain-sodden draw as Lees plays that defensively into the onside. He goes very quickly off the bat towards Patel, who goes to square leg to pick up, and there's no run.
Sorry, I forgot. He played here in 2013 game, that low-scoring game in which England skittled New Zealand in the 4th innings to win. He took 3 wickets in that game, took 9 in that fantastic test in 2015 when Ben Stokes scored that pyrotechnic 100 for Alistair Cook in that game as well, and England bowled New Zealand out on the last day, but Boult had 9 for 164 in the match in that game.
Well, he's taken 301 test match wickets, and Boult bowls to Lees. Lees plays into the offside, takes one hand off the bat, picked up by Young coming from point, and there is no run. You talk about Anderson and Broad, all those wickets together for England, but Boult and Southey, Boult 301, Southey 338 test match wickets. It's a pretty handy opening pair, although Southey 33 now, Boult 32.
Yeah,
I suppose it's quite young compared to Anderson and Broad, but you've got a lot of overs, a lot of wickets, a lot of out of the body. Boult bowls, forward goes Lees rather, to a full delivery from Boult, and Boult picks up in his follow through, and there is no run.
Experience, isn't it? A lot of experience there. As you say, Tim Southey, wonderful bowler, and Trent Boult, left and right hand combination as well.
And they've got a decent bowler to come on as well, and Kyle Jamieson has had a great start to his Test career.
Yeah.
Boult bowls outside the off stump, guided away by Lees, not particularly well timed, but he'll get a single. Williamson has to run from mid-off to extra cover to pick up.
It was a strange knock by Jameson. Did you see much?
Yeah, I was watching Thomas.
Well, no. I was next door on doing the highlights programme, but it was a shot of ball, wasn't it? I mean, really did decide to come out after lunch and really go for it. I mean, fair enough, probably thought one had their name on it, but they managed to get some runners and get some sort of total. It was looking like they weren't going to get 50 at one stage.
132 all out New Zealand, if you have just switched on. You can watch the highlights tonight on BBC Two from 7 o'clock. Well, there's a lot to put in that highlights programme already.
Cool.
And who knows what we've got. There's still a lot of cricket left today. 46 overs. Here's Southey bowling. Full Lees gets a thick inside edge on that down towards fine leg. Bolt flicks in the return with a sort of low flick there, not quite underarm. Nice athletic return. Lees gets a fortuitous single, takes him to 3, and England to 5 for no wicket. This is the third over. Yeah, the light holds and all that sort of thing. We'll be definitely playing till 6:30 tonight. There's still over half a day's cricket left, and we're...
I know.
Like
3.
14 minutes from tea.
I don't know. I know. It always amazes me, all the over rates and how it all goes.
Southey goes in and bowls to Crawley, and Lees is coming down the pitch at the non-strikers end. The ball goes away into the onside. Patel comes to pick up, and I think Lees basically ran a single there, didn't he? Halfway down, halfway back again. Crawley wasn't interested.
He looks like one of those chaps, Alex Lees. You need to get to know how he runs, because every time he hits it, he takes 1, 2, 3, 4, even if he's hit it straight as sort of extra cover or something. He's one of those guys who just likes to be busy at the crease. But it can be a little bit off-putting if you haven't played with someone like that for a long. Dermot Reeve used to be like that.
Southey from the pavilion end, 3 slips in the gully, bowls to Crawley's on his pads, flicked away down towards fine leg before. Very full from Southey, angling the ball into the pads of Zach Crawley, and Crawley takes the first boundary of England's first innings. 9 for no wicket.
Yeah, asking it to do a bit too much there. Tim Southey started it on sort of middle of the leg and never swung, and easy just to flick them away for Crawley. That will give him some confidence.
Was angling in as well down the hill. Nice one for Crawley to take into the leg side, backward a square. Southey tries again. Goes into bowl to Crawley, and bowls a beauty. It really was a good delivery. Went slightly wide of the crease, again angled in, and it left Crawley past the outside edge and through to the wicketkeeper Blundell.
He knows his way around Lords, Tim Southey, doesn't he? Play for Middlesex, didn't he? If I'm not mistaken. Might be. But I'm sure he's played a few times.
It's amazing, isn't it? When I started watching cricket, you had your county for life, didn't you, as an overseas player? Then
20 years, man and boy.
And then
played it.
Yeah, and overseas players did as well, didn't
Wayne
they?
Daniel, Desmond Haynes at Middlesex.
For example.
Only played for that county.
Southey bowls, turned away by Crawley for more runs, backward a square. Bolt says it's mine to Patel, who was running from mid-wicket down towards the mound stand, and they come back for 2 runs.
No, you're right. And Malcolm Marshall, always Hampshire.
Yeah.
Sylvester Clarke, always Surrey. Loads of them, just stayed. Now they all pop about, don't they?
And they play, T20 for one county, next season playing with someone else. It is hard to keep a track of where players have played.
Yeah.
Sandy played at Essex, didn't he?
Sure, he played at Middlesex as well. I might be wrong.
He goes into bowl to Crawley, and Crawley struck on the pad, but no real interest from the fielders, or certainly not from the bowler. Ball goes away into the offside. It's quite high on the pad there. End of Southey's over. 11 for no wicket. We've probably got 10 minutes to go until tea. We've had 3 overs of England's reply to New Zealand's 1-3-2.
Your memory is not playing tricks tough, as he played 1 season in the T20 Blast for Middlesex in 2017. Took 15 wickets in 12 matches. Played 1 season for Essex in 2011. But has done pretty well here in Test matches. He had a 10-wicket haul in that low-scoring game in 2013, 4 in the first, 6 in the second, and then last year he took 6 for 43 in the first innings, 1 for 37 in the second, so in all 20 wickets at 26. A couple of poor games, a couple of good ones.
Trent Bolt bowls his second over to Lees, who opens the face, runs it away into the offside, backward square, only a single. Conway runs from the gully region to pick up and sends in the return to Blundell. 12 for no wicket. It's hard to keep a track of players. I've been commentating on the IPL over the last couple of months and did the final and watching a lot of the games, commentating on a lot of the games, and then I went to the Oval on Tuesday just for the T20 game, took my daughter to watch the Surrey-Gloucestershire match, and I couldn't believe I hadn't sort of noticed that they'd signed, but there was Kyron Pollard strolling out and Sunil Narine, two superb T20 players.
Yeah,
Surrey have got a very strong side this summer in T20, and Narine had a fabulous IPL. He basically couldn't hit him, and Norfolk Gloucestershire as well the other night. Here's Bolt bowling outside the off stump, and Crawley leans forward and lets it go through to wicketkeeper Blundell.
Was he still playing for the Knight, right? The
Kolkata Knight Riders, yeah.
The Titans won that, didn't they?
The Gujarat Titans in their first season, and they beat Trent Bolt's team, Rajasthan Royals, in the final, quite comfortably actually.
Yeah, it wasn't a great pitch, was it?
No, it wasn't a great pitch, it wasn't a great final.
No. Joss.
Well, there were 120,000 people there in that new stadium in Ahmedabad, making quite a lot of noise.
120.
Bolt bowls, shot way down the leg side, and Crawley goes after it and misses. And I was just about to say, I was in T20 mode there, IPL mode, just about to say that's a wide. Of course it's not, this is a test match.
No. Come on, get your whites on.
My whites head on.
Yes, not your coloured clothing. Head on.
There was some stunning performances, and Liam Livingstone did very well.
Yeah, smashing it about.
Really advanced his case.
Hit the longest six, didn't he? Our biggest
117 metres.
It's a long way,
off Mohammed Shami. It is a long way.
Yeah.
Bolt bowls outside the off stump. Nothing from Crawley there. Allows it to go through to Blundell.
That would take Usain Bolt about 10.5 seconds to go and retrieve that. It's quite a long way.
It'd probably take a bit longer because he'd have to navigate his way up the staircase and then through the chairs and everything.
He was really only good on the flat, wasn't he? So it's probably weaknesses, Natalie.
It's a long way, that is, 170.
Well, it's almost as big as that one he hit at Headingley.
Oh yes, that was a walk.
That was 121 apparently.
Was it?
121 metres.
That's a par 3 for me.
Bolt bowls to Crawley. Good delivery from Bolt. Good lead from Crawley as well. It's close to off stump, across him from the left armour. Crawley leaning forward and allow it to go through to the wicketkeeper. And I should say, talking about T20, Surrey against Hampshire, T20 Blast commentary from 7 o'clock this evening when we finished here. 5 Live Sports Extra, and every ball of every county game is on the BBC Sport website and app. Also at 7 o'clock tonight, the highlights programme. And if you want to see any of the highlights of the day's play so far, you can go to the BBC Sport website and see them there. Bolt bowls, full, driven by Crawley. Nice shot, well stopped by Kane Williamson, diving away to his left-hand side. Superb piece of fielding, saves 3 runs there. They got through for a single because it was a full-length dive away to his left.
And you're right about Crawley. That's his strength and his weakness. Beautiful extra cover drive there off Bolt, and he gets his foot a little bit nearer to that pitch of the ball. And it absolutely nailed that at Kane Williamson, but can be his weakness, especially early on. I'd almost think to myself to put that sort of extra cover drive away just till you get to 20. Listen, if it's a great big fat half volley and you fancy whacking it, why not? But put that away, get to 20, then start unfurling it. Get yourself in a bit.
That was the last ball of the over. Crawley took a single, so he's on strike to Southey. Drives again, thick inside edge. Goes out towards mid-on, and there is no run.
Yeah, see, that's a risky shot, isn't it? It was sort of on the up. It was a bit wide, wasn't full enough to get the off sort of extra cover drive too, and just reached for it a bit. Just wait till you got yourself in and got the pace of the pitch.
3 slips in the gully, waiting for the outside edge, and the wicketkeeper as well. You definitely want to be concentrating on Crawley's batting. Southey bowls. Crawley does edge that. A guided edge, though, past the gully. No chance for Conway. Latham chases back from second slip towards deep third to pick up and send in the return to Blundell. And they come back for 2 runs. Crawley into double figures. Because while lots of batters were filling their boots in the early rounds of the county championship, Crawley wasn't exactly doing that.
No.
I mean, there was some There were some scores in there.
His mate wasn't he? What's his name? Mr. Compton.
Yeah.
Down at Kent.
Well, he's got 500s this season.
Yeah.
Crawley, there's an 84 and a 62 against Northants. And then 4 low scores, single-figure scores. He waits for Southey outside the off stump. Nothing from Crawley there. Through to the wicket-keeper.
That was Kent's most recent game, so he's at least coming in off scoring at 62 and 84 in that match. His last Test innings in the West Indies, he was out for 8, 2 fours, both aerial, one a very tough caught and bowl chance, and then caught driving on the up. 3 aerial shots in the first 11 balls. Not classical Test opening.
No, just need to have a little peep, as my mate Wayne Larkins used to say. You've got to give yourself a little look.
Well, Wayne didn't give it that long.
Well, no, he didn't. That's why he said just a little peep.
A little peep there. 15 for no wicket. Crawley 11. Southey goes into bowl to Crawley down the leg side. He tries to flick it away and misses. It's taken by Blundell. And we saw in the winter, didn't we? That innings in Sydney where he played superbly. The Australians raved about him. I mean, they liked the fact that England had an opener that was prepared to play a few shots. They didn't mind him nicking off eventually, of course, as well.
No.
As long as he didn't do too much damage to them. And then that 100 in the Caribbean. And then in between it, low scores, because he does play in that way early on. It does give the bowler a chance. Moving towards tea, Southey bowls to Crawley again down the leg side. Poorly directed from Southey. And Crawley there tried to glance again, missed it. Taken by Blundell. Pleasant afternoon at Lord's, bit of high cloud. Decent sized crowd in. It feels full, doesn't it? Or close to full.
Yeah.
Not everyone watches the whole time. There are a few empty seats at the moment. People go around the back and meet friends, and picnic
Champagne tent. Burger van.
Exactly.
It's nice round the back there.
Southey to Crawley. That's a decent lead from Crawley. Ball in the channel outside the off stump. Quite close to the off stump as well. He allowed it to go by. And taken by the wicket-keeper. So that's the end of 5 overs. England are 15 for no wicket in reply to New Zealand's 132. Potts 4 for 13. Went off with cramp.
Yeah, that's
told.
Good.
Yeah.
I thought it might be something more.
Well, if it's a calf, that's...
Oof, don't want a calf.
That's a few weeks out, that, isn't it?
Well, can be a few more as well than that. Awkward little things.
And Leach out of the game with concussion after diving on the boundary edge.
It's unfortunate, isn't it? Concussion.
Must have sort of gone over on his neck, I think it was. Sort of the back of his head.
Yeah. Desperately unlucky.
Bowls to Lees. He tucks their way into the onside. They're off for a quick single shot. The stumps, non-strikers misses.
Gone.
And Lees was out of that throw hit from Patel. It was a terrible single. He pushed it
straight to mid-wicket.
Yeah, straight to the fielder.
Yeah. He's done that a couple of times, Lees. He just needs to calm down. That first over, he was nearly run out twice, Simon. And that would have been gone by 3 yards.
Well, you had no chance there. Direct hit, and then we wouldn't have even gone upstairs.
No.
Standing umpire would have given that out.
Like a scolded ferret. Is that... No, that's not right, is it? Scolded cat.
Do they scold ferrets?
No, they can do if they've been naughty.
16 for no wicket. Crawley on 11. Bolt bowls to him. Outside the off stump. Full. He lets it go, and it curves away down the slope after it had gone past the stumps. So it's a feature of Lord's. Not easy place to keep. The ball does swing late.
Yeah, it wobbles as it goes past the stumps. Don't know why. We don't really know why, do we? We've asked millions, and we've asked all the keepers, and they say just something about Lord's, isn't it? Perhaps it's the slope. Are we getting a fly past today, do you know?
Well, I think we had one earlier.
Oh, did we? I missed it.
Yeah. Bolt round the wicket now to Crawley, leans forward and lets that go.
You know your planes, Aggers?
No.
What were they?
Oh, Aggers, right.
What were they? Were they sort of Lancaster bombers? Oh, it's a Spitfire. Oh, missed that.
The problem was, there was so much going on the pitch at the time, it was easy to miss what was going on up in the sky. I think it actually coincided with Jack Leach's injury.
Oh, dear.
I think it did, down on the fine leg boundary.
Oh, I'd have liked to have seen that. I think the Duchess is over Epsom Downs watching it. She would have seen it.
Bolt bowls, and Crawley there plays that uppishly into the offside. Miscue. might have been a leading edge. Gets 2 streaky runs. Patel runs back from square cover to pick up. Crawley moves to 13, and England 18 for no wicket. They haven't exactly been sure-footed, these two. There have been moments of indiscretion, mainly between the wickets, but that was one off the bat. Fortunate moment for Crawley. There are 2 balls left in the afternoon session, and then after tea, 42 overs.
Ooh, ouch.
Bolt running in, bowls to Crawley, and Crawley leans forward and lets that delivery go. It's delivered from wide, so he just has to be a bit careful about his off stump, but he lined it up well. England 114 runs behind on this first day. A chance to get into a really strong position after tea. With all those overs left, they could be ahead tonight.
Yeah, just a bit of sensible batting, build partnerships, all the old cliches.
Or they could be all out.
Well, let's just get past 40 for 3. We've heard that a couple of times over the last year or two, haven't we?
Crawley waits, bat raised, Bolt bowls to him, solidly forward, pushing into the offside, and that's a better single. Big gap there between Williamson and Patel. Patel square cover, Williamson mid off, and he played it between them, so a safe single. And that is tea. So Crawley will be on strike after tea on 14. Lees has 5, and it's 19 for no wicket after 6 overs of England's reply to New Zealand's 132.
Yeah, a few alarm bells there, especially with Lees' running. Could have been run out 2 or 3 times, but the main thing, no wickets down at tea. Good day for England so far.
Very good day. It's been almost perfect. I mean, they were 45 for 7 at one stage, New Zealand. But they managed to recover to some extent. Tuffers can take a break. More from him in the final session. 45 for 7 at one point. Then de Grandhomme 42 not out. Southey making 26. Bolt 14. The lower order repaired some of the damage, but only some, I think. 132. You don't win many test matches after being bowled out in your first innings for 132. Potts taking 4 for 13, Anderson 4 for 66, Broad 1 for 45, and Stokes 1 for 5. So England have progressed to the interval without loss, and chance to perhaps get into the lead after the break. Well, Andy Zoltzman will tell us sometime a little later how many teams have won, scoring 132 in their first innings, but I dare say it's probably not that many. In a moment we're going to find out how you can help honour the great Shane Warne this weekend. But first, a little earlier, there was a special presentation on the outfield with a gathering of leading faith and community leaders. The group all signed a unity statement setting out the faith leaders and ECB's collective commitment to eliminating discrimination and bringing together people from different nationalities, cultures and religions. It's part of the Game's response to discrimination, highlighted by the powerful testimony of Azim Rafiq, and Alison Mitchell has been out and about to find out more.
Well, there is a lovely buzz down here by the pavilion. People are stretching their legs, and I'm joined by Buddhist nun Venerable Emma Slade and Mufti Yusuf Akudi as well. I've just watched the ceremony on the outfield. A presentation was made. Venerable, tell me a little bit more about what just happened.
So we just had a very clear visual image of a diverse group of people, all human, all wishing to be good people, contribute to society, come together to encourage and to make a very clear statement about the importance of diversity in sport, in cricket, actually in everywhere. And I think standing on this beautiful pitch in front of the English team and the New Zealand team, it's just a very clear statement of intent by the ECB, and we are all, I'm sure, in our own different ways, our different paths, behind that very clear intent.
Mufti, how was it that you became involved in signing and being a representative here for the Statements of Unity?
Well, I've been part of this journey for the last 6 to 9 months. I'd call it the Heaven Help Us Cricket Club. And
I love the name.
It's actually, it's all started off with as human beings and how we are maybe different but equal in a nicest way possible. And cricket in itself, diverse, challenging, sporting, obviously, teaching strategy, teaching leadership, and we wanted to showcase this great image of humanity, human beings, people of different faiths, different backgrounds, different cultures, to show that then there needs to be that equality representation in such a lovely game as cricket, where we all feel welcome, we all feel part of the human family, and that's why I'm here, really, in essence, representing the Muslim community of Britain.
So, in the signing of the statement, how does that translate into action in terms of making people feel welcome?
So the unity statement is something that expresses this profound wish for how a human treats another human, based on respect, based on a joint passion for something, in this case cricket, that brings out the best in both of those individuals. So if the statement remains as a piece of paper on a wall, then it won't do very much. So it's down to each and every one of the spectators, the players, yourself, us, to make it real.
It's actually upon us all, individuals, to be responsible, practically implement what's been stated and written, what we've signed. And again, those words, they will, I hope, will be make history in the future in terms of how diverse we are, and we will be, and we will continue to work together on this, hopefully.
If human beings respect each other, it goes a long way, doesn't it, towards unity and harmony. Lovely to meet you both.
Thank you.
Well done for what you're doing. We wish you both well.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye. Thank you.
Alison Mitchell reporting on the signing of the unity statement, which took place out on the field earlier. Also earlier today, there was a very touching moment on the field after the 23rd over, as players stopped to stand in memory of Shane Warne, the Australian legend, passed away earlier this year. It was a huge shock to all of us. Now, Saturday is the anniversary of the ball of the century he bowled to Mike Gatting at Old Trafford in 1993, and there's a movement started by our tea time guest for people to mark that in their own special way at the weekend. Greg James is the Radio 1 breakfast show host, as well as the co-host of the Tailenders podcast, which is available on BBC Sounds, which he presents with Felix White and James Anderson. Also, Isha Guha is here. Isha has worked extensively with Shane over in Australia as part of the Fox cricket coverage. Welcome.
Nice to see you.
It is great. Nice to see you as well. First of all, tell us what you've come up with then.
Well, it's an idea that came to me on a dog walk when I had
all the good ideas do that.
I had the wind ball and I was about to throw it for my dog, and I was doing the classic throwing a leg break up like Warney did at the start of his run up. I thought, oh God, it's fun, isn't it, bowling leg spin? Even if you can't do it, it's really fun. And then we talked it over with the Tailenders team, and I said, well, wouldn't it be great if we could all just bowl a leg break? As a moment, we could all bowl a leg break. And then the listeners suggested dates. And then I think it was a listener called Alistair said, oh, why don't we try it on the anniversary of the ball of the century? And it so happened that was the Saturday of the test. And it seems appropriate, and this is the first home test we've had without Shane Warne. It feels really sad still. It feels kind of surreal still that, one of the greatest ever is not here, part of it, and talking us through the action. And so the movement is happening, I think. There's lots of village clubs, and the idea is that we said any cricket you're playing on Saturday, the first ball of the match should be a leg break, and everyone stands round. And if you've got a floppy hat, if you can put some zinc sun cream on your face, and everyone crowds the bat, and everyone says bowling Shane after the ball, and film it, and we can create a huge montage of everyone trying to bowl the ball of the century. And as we discussed it on the podcast, we thought somebody somewhere will bowl the ball of the century, surely. If there's enough people that try it, there'll be somebody that replicates it perfectly.
Might be Matt Parkinson on Saturday.
Could well be. If he's probably listening to this, driving down the M6.
He's probably, he's probably stuck in the traffic still. Yeah. So, is this any game? So you're talking about like serious club cricket? So some of the top.
I'm talking about serious test
Middlesex, cricket. Yorkshire, Lancashire leagues or whatever.
Whatever anyone wants to do, and it won't count as a delivery. It'll be
it won't count as delivery.
It'll be a dot ball just for fun. I mean, because Shane Warne, amongst other things, was one of the most fun cricketers of all time. He wanted it to be fun. He wanted every single person in the ground or the stadium or wherever he was playing just to enjoy it and have a nice time. And that's what we thought would be a great way to mark him, is that just to have a nice time, do something silly when you're playing cricket. And the idea, so it won't count. And we've tried to convince Jimmy to do it. So if he's bowling on Saturday,
I'm just trying to think who'll be bowling on Saturday morning.
No, he's got an excuse now, hasn't he? He can pass it over to Matt Parkinson instead. But was he considering it?
Well,
was he seriously considering it?
He said to mark it, he might just bowl a leg break to Ben Stokes at mid-off as a little loosener. But just, that's the whole point, is for everyone just to focus on Shane Warne in that moment and go, oh, what an amazing cricketer. Changed the game, so let's have some fun.
So if you do this in your game on Saturday, film it. Where should you send it? What should you do?
Film it, tweet it to TMS, put hashtag Shane Warne Day. We're going to call it Shane Warne Day. And whatever cricket you're playing, but you don't even have to be playing cricket. You might be in Tesco. And just bowl it down.
Get an orange out of the...
but get an orange, bowl it down the veg aisle. We're talking in the kitchen. We're talking about if you're on a train, do it down the corridor of the train. Do it in the vestibule or whatever it is. So wherever the cricket can be played anywhere, essentially. So back garden, kitchen, whatever. We want you just to try and bowl the ball of the century, and we'll put together a video sort of celebration of Shane Warne. And you could be part of it.
Here's the thing, not everybody knows how to bowl a leg break.
Well,
so have you got a demonstration somewhere of how to bowl a leg break?
We actually have. Yeah, so we recorded a tail enders a couple of nights ago here in the media centre when Jimmy had just finished training. I think he made his excuses and said, sorry lads, I've got to go and do a tail enders. So he came up here and then we went out to the nursery end afterwards and he bowled a leg break in the nets. I tried one, Felix bowled one, Matt bowled one as well from the podcast. And there's a video I think that's being tweeted at some point today. I think it's been made. But one of the joys actually is when we talked about Shane Warne, and loads of people did amazing tributes, and we tried to do our own one because we were all deeply affected by him sadly passing away. Is that one of the things that came to light is that a lot of people who maybe had never seen Shane Warne play cricket live. I mean, we were lucky enough to see him in person live and see him destroy England many times. But a lot of people have revisited his stuff on YouTube, and he's one of the most watchable cricketers ever. You could spend hours watching some of his spells. So a lot of kids have come to Shane Warne through old clips. So there's plenty of stuff out there, and plenty of it's a very fun action to try and replicate, isn't it?
I mean, he was an amazing cricketer. I mean, I don't think we did appreciate him while he was playing, but when you just think back what he achieved, 708 Test wickets, and the way he did it as well. He revived. I think he helped revive Test cricket. Actually, he certainly revived an art that had been lost in Test cricket. Also, after the game, after he finished playing as well. I mean, he did talk a lot of players out while he was on the field, but he was also a brilliant talker in the commentary box as well. And Nisha, you worked with him in Australia for quite a few years, actually, haven't you? What did you learn from being alongside him in the commentary box?
Look, I learned a tremendous amount, actually. And I think a lot of people talk about him as a player and what he did on the field and that magic that he possessed and that awe about him to make things happen. He did the same in the commentary box. And he was someone who just wanted to do things to the best of his ability and get the best broadcast out there possible. From the Kerry Packer days and the 9 days of working with the broadcasters, he had such a reverence for those that had gone before, much like the players that had gone before in Australian cricket. And he would always just want the best for the broadcast, and he could pick the moment. Just as he sensed on the cricket field a moment in the game, every now and then he would have a point in his mind, and sometimes he would labour over that point. But in the moment, in a game of cricket, he would pick a moment in the game and just start talking about it, and that's when we knew to shut up. We just let him go, and he would talk us through what was happening, what was going on around it, what the bowler should bowl. And it was literally mesmerising. I remember a moment this winter, actually, myself and Gilly just sat back, and
Adam Gilchrist.
Yeah, me and Gilly were just looking at each other going, okay, we are in awe here. And we even talked about
Adam Gilchrist was at the other end for most of his delivery, wasn't he?
But just appreciating that the man and how he had the ability to convey things and simplify the game to the masses. I think he had a wonderful ability to be able to do that. And you're talking about those YouTube clips. There will be so many masterclasses on there of him explaining the game of cricket and explaining the art of leg spin, just so everyone could understand cricket simply. And I think he was one of the best at doing that.
Was it intimidating to be in a commentary box with him?
Massively. I mean, when I first came into the Skybox, it was just ridiculous. Sir Ian Botham, David Gower, Shane Warne. But that was quite a significant moment, I guess, in that he just made it really friendly, and just the way he was off commentary, you just wanted to be around him, you wanted to hear his stories, you wanted to talk cricket with him, and he would ask me questions about the game, and that was a significant moment for me to believe that I could commentate, because I just didn't think that I was that good. So by him asking me questions, it just gave me so much belief. So that was quite a significant moment. But I think with him specifically, there are lots of people you meet in the game that give you advice, and I'm very lucky to have had that. But with him, when you knew you had his respect, you kind of felt like you had everyone else's. So that was Shane Warne.
So he gave you confidence.
Massive.
So could you see actually how he managed to do that to his teammates? I also think of. I watched that program about his life actually a couple of days ago, and he had this amazing career. And then of course you forget that he did that. I know people don't. Not everybody likes the IPL, but he did an incredible thing in the IPL as well, because he helped a team that. They were written off, weren't they? They were no-hopers, and they won the first IPL, Rajasthan Royals, back in 2008. So you got a sense of that from working with him, how he could lift other people as well.
And that's something that actually made him very proud. He would talk about those days at Rajasthan and the ability to lead the side. Manoj Badali got him involved, and they were, I guess, a bunch of misfits, and he took them to the top that very first year. Along with the partying, he made it very fun off the pitch as well. But that was the man, he made things happen.
Greg, you host Tailenders with Jimmy. How's he been over the last few months? Give us an insight into that, because he went to Australia and England lost 4-0. He didn't go to the West Indies. Probably took the hump at that. He kept counsel for a while, didn't he, about how he felt about it? It wasn't obvious. There was no great public statements. How has he been?
He's very happy now, I imagine. He was very happy the other day. I mean, he just wants to play cricket. So I think it would be weird if you weren't annoyed when you're dropped, if you really want to play for England. But we saw him. We did that podcast I mentioned the other day before this test, and it just felt up for it. He felt very relaxed. He was very happy. Looked amazing. He'd sort of he'd been bowling really well for Lancs anyway, and just looked up for it. But yeah, I mean, I think things just feel very different today. But it was a very sad February, March, April, I think, for a lot of people anyway, because the world's not been great, and it was very dark and oppressive. And it was actually my dad, who I'm here with today. He said, things will look a lot different in the summer. They will. Things will look different, and it'll be brighter. And look, there's new jobs everywhere. You've got a new coach, a new captain. Broady and Jimmy are back in the team, and it's a sunny-ish day here at Lord's, and it does feel a bit brighter. So there's always those little short, you can get bogged down with the short-termist thinking, but actually, I think the plan probably. I hope there was a plan. There might not have been a plan at all. Then maybe there was no one to make a plan. But it seemed like this was meant to happen today, and it's just been so great to see England bowl well today.
Does he tell you things that he doesn't tell anybody else?
Yeah. Well,
how much can you say?
Well, it's very difficult to say. But when we do a podcast, believe it or not, we do have a chat beforehand, and we wanted to talk about the fact that he wasn't going to the West Indies. And there were a few things going on there, because we were all going to go and do a trip. We were all going to go out there and have a nice week in. We were going to go out to the Antigua Test, I think. Oh no, we were going to go to Barbados, and then he didn't get picked, so we all went, guys. We went off the WhatsApp group and went, guys, what do we do? Can we still go if Jimmy is not coming? So we had to talk about that a little bit. But then we had a bit of a meeting beforehand and said, how do you really feel? So he told us how he really feels, and we said, we'll dial that down a little bit and let's put that out as a podcast. But yeah, of course he was upset. Why it would be mad not to. But we didn't want to put him on microphone the day after he didn't get picked. I think that would have been a mistake. Yeah. A career ender.
So for those people who haven't listened to the Tailenders podcast, is he relatively indiscreet though? He'll say things that he'll do his post-match interviews here, and he'll sort of toe the line a bit. You've got to do that, haven't you, as an England player? But does he say things that are relatively indiscreet in the podcast?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, I think we just get to know the man behind the wickets, and you get to find out what he's like off the pitch. And for example, he's an expert in desktop shredders. I bet you didn't know that, did you?
I didn't know.
He shreds mangoes.
Yeah, he knows his shredders. He
shreds mangoes.
He's got a lovely home office.
You can't shred a mango.
You want to bet? You want to bet?
Well, you can't. What about that big stone in the middle? You can't put that through a shredder.
It's no match for Jimmy Anderson and his Rexall shredder. But you get to just you get relaxed, Jimmy, and that's nice.
Yeah.
But he's a very funny man, as you know. He's a funny man. But he gives away as much as he possibly can, but also doesn't want to throw his fellow players under the bus.
Yeah.
And does have to toe the party line to a certain extent. But he's good when he's loose, I'd say. After maybe 2 to 3 beers is the
optimum Jimmy.
So, ball of the century. Just remind us that very quickly then, Greg, before play resumes here.
Okay, ball of the century. We would encourage anyone who's playing cricket on Saturday, whatever level of cricket you're playing, or whether you're not, even if you're not playing cricket, grab a ball, grab an orange, grab whatever you want, and try and bowl. Try and recreate.
And record it and send it in.
Record it, send it to Tailenders, hashtag Tailenders, hashtag Shane Warne Day, or send it to TMS and they'll deal with it. And we'll put all the videos together and just have an amazing celebration of one of the greatest to have ever played the game.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Isha and Greg James.
Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed. So that's coming up on Saturday. Coming up now is going to be England resuming their first innings on 19 for no wicket in reply to 132 all out. And here is Daniel Norcross.
Thank you, Simon. It's Southey who's going to bowl the first ball after tea, and Crawley lets it go by a little bit closer to the off stump than we've seen from Southey, whose lines and lengths were all over the place really before tea. He just didn't get it where his captain wanted him to at all. They had 6 overs before tea, did the New Zealanders, having been bowled out for 132 in rather dramatic fashion, and they've sort of got 2 bites of the cherry, but this was a rather toothless, a rather gummy bite. Was the first bite, the first 6 overs. Let's see how they get on in the next 6 or so. Southey is in, beats the bat. That is much more like it. And that had Crawley playing on the walk. The ball tighter to off stump. And it snaked past the outside edge into the keeper's gloves. 19th without loss. Michael Vaughan is alongside me.
Yeah, that's Tim Southey, isn't it? From the pavilion end, bowling that channel just outside the off stump, bringing the batter forward. Just before tea, I think you'd say that both Trent Boult and Tim Southey look like they've been playing quite a lot of T20 cricket, and they have. It might take them a spell or two to get into the groove of Test match bowling once again.
With the red ball, Southey in, and again, that's much more like it. In the channel, outside the off stump, it briefly tempted Crawley, twitched at it, but then let it go by.
But because they're so good, I don't think it'll take them too long to get into the groove of Test match bowling. It might be one spell, it might be 1 over, it might just be those overs before tea that they've suddenly triggered in the tea break exactly what you require to be consistent at this level. So it won't take long for Southey and Boult to get into their groove. And there's a bit of swing there, isn't there? Just a hint of movement away from the right-hander.
A hint. Southey is into Crawley, and that has moved a little bit off the pitch as well, but it's well wide of the off stump, left alone. Let me give you the field. We've got 3 slips and a gully, cover point, a wide mid-off, almost an extra cover really, a straight mid-on, mid-wicket about 6 or 7 yards in front of square, and a long leg as Lords starts to refill itself after being emptied at the tea break, as people go into the concessions and the bars and whatnot. It's still perfectly reasonable weather today. It's not blisteringly hot. Southey runs in, and Crawley just works this into the onside nicely, slightly to the right of mid-on, and they come through for a single. There's been some frenetic running between these two before the tea break. Lees nearly ran himself out, hitting the ball straight to Patel, and he gave up on it, but the throw was wild and wide, so he got away with it. On that occasion, a better judged run. Nicely played by Crawley, a proper opening batter's shot, and that's what a lot of people are looking to see in Crawley. Is he an opening batter, or is he better suited down the order? He's moved to 15, England to 20 without loss, and there are 3 slips and a gully in for the left-hander as well. The cover is a bit more in front of square for the left-handed Lees. Mid-off, mid-on, mid-wicket and a long leg. As Southey is in, and Lees may or may not have played at that. He came forward towards a fullish ball, angled across him, and it goes through to the keeper. End of the over. The 7th of England's innings. They're 20 without loss. Crawley has 15. Lees has 5. And this is a rather crucial moment, you think, in the match, Michael Vaughan, because England have had a brittle top order, and they feel a bit more solid in that middle order, and almost feel like if they can survive 15 to 20 overs with the new ball, it's going to put huge pressure on New Zealand later on in this game as the ball gets a bit softer.
There's going to be a change in the bowling after tea. Colin de Grandhomme is going to replace Trent Boult. Yeah, the only way they looked like getting out before tea was run out. Yeah, they were very frantic, particularly Alex Lees had that kind of brain fade where he just ran to mid-wicket and he'd have been 3 or 4 metres out. Yeah. So apart from that, they've played. You're going to play miss at the odd delivery against quality bowling when there's just a little bit of movement. But so far, so good for this pair.
So, Colin de Grandhomme it is. He of the mullet. And bowls a short ball pushed into the offside, straight to Patel in the covers. And there's no run. Colin de Grandhomme is one of these bowlers I don't understand, Michael. I don't, in my mind, consider him to be a particularly dangerous wicket taker, but he is rather effective, and he can't get him away. I mean, his economy rate's about 2.4, isn't it, Andy? As de Grandhomme is in to the right-handed Crawley, who leaves this close to the off stump, goes through low to Blundell. No run.
Yes, career economy rate is 2.39. He's taken 48 wickets in 29 tests, a decent average of 33, only 3 in his last 6 games before this one. Average 58, that's going back to February of 2020. So not a huge amount of wickets recently, but overall a decent record for a fifth bowler.
It's interesting, they're looking to hold an end up already though, isn't it? As de Grandhomme is in, it's through to the keeper, no run. Let's try and change.
See, I think it's quite a clever move to someone like Zach Crawley. Colin de Grandhomme would be my worst nightmare, because he's got no pace, he doesn't bowl you much in terms of freebies, he's not going to bowl too many on your pads that you can just flick through that onside. Even if he does, it's hard because it's so slow to kind of gather any momentum into the stroke. And I think he's just going to dangle the carrot to Zach Crawley and say, go on, try and play a drive or two.
Full on the pads, flicked away nicely between mid-wicket and mid-on. It's running up towards the boundary, it's got to go up the slope, and it's being pursued, but it will just tantalisingly get there as a Man Mountain Kyle Jameson followed the ball into the sponge. And a boundary for Crawley, moves to 19, 24 without loss.
That's a high-class stroke. On and around middle stump. Sometimes with a tall player, which Zach Crawley is, because de Grandhomme's so slow, you can almost fall over. Your head can fall over to the offside and you play across the line of those straight balls. But he stays nice and upright. Allows the ball to get to him. Timed it perfectly. He's got to start again, Zach Crawley. He's got to 19. There's a lot of starts in Test cricket.
Grandhomme into him and he drives, and this reaches for it away from his body. He'll get a run as it goes between cover and mid-off. This time Williamson moves to his left to field and he gets to 20, 25 without loss. Hands very low on the bat, aren't they? Right down to the bottom of the handle. I just, we've seen him get out in the same sort of way so often. That drive, had a big gap between bat and pad often as well. He plays these beautiful shots.
But where Alex Lees is batting here, he's batting well outside of off stump.
He is. De Grandhomme into him, and that is outside the off stump. He's going to pick up 4 for it, but not in the way you might imagine. He just defended the ball back to the bowler, who then flung it back at Lees, because Lees was outside of his crease, and Lees had to duck. Blundell had no chance, and the ball's rolled all the way up to the pavilion.
I reckon he's out here.
For a fortuitous 4. Well, take a look at this. Lees is out of his crease, a long way. He's taken a step out of his crease. The throw comes in. He desperately tried to get back, but it was a wild throw from de Grandhomme. It was just dug into the ground, and yeah, he would have been out, but he was sort of slightly between de Grandhomme and the stumps. Wasn't far away from his head. It wasn't that far from the stumps end of the over. 2 4s in that over, but 2 very different 4s. One overthrows and one a beautiful clip by Crawley. England 29 without loss.
But I will say, I mean, getting test match runs is never easy. It's always difficult to score runs at this level.
Southey in, starts a new over. Forward comes Crawley, drives crisply up to wide mid-off. There's no run.
But I would say to this pair, make hay. While the New Zealanders are a little bit rusty, while you've got a pitch that's playing absolutely fine, while you've got a chance where the scoreboard had given you no pressure at all. You know, you're looking at 132, it's nothing. So really concentrate as hard as you can to maximise this opportunity, because it will get harder. You know, Trent Bridge next week, they'll be better off, New Zealand, for playing this week. The week after that, Headland, they'll be better off from the first 2 test matches.
Southey's in, left alone, outside the off stump, through to Blundell.
So today's the day for these two, Ollie Pope at 3, to really maximise on this opportunity. Don't leave it till next week. It'll be harder. The week after will be harder than that. This is a great chance for these young England players that we're all looking at and saying they've got a lot of talent. They have. You know, someone like Zach Crawley, there's been many players who have played the game, have looked at him and gone, he's got a chance of having a long test match career, but he's got to get big numbers. Had that 1 double century, played okay in Australia when he got in the team, played okay in the West Indies.
Southey scurries in and he drives beautifully through extra cover. That's the sort of shot you expect to see from Crawley, and it's going to make it all the way to the boundary, all along the ground. A lovely, fluid, languid drive, nicely timed between cover and mid-off. And another boundary, 33 without loss. Runs coming thick and fast.
I reckon we're probably working with one of the best who realised that when he had that chance to go big, Alistair Cook I'm talking about, he maximised that opportunity. So when he got an opportunity like this on a pitch like this against a team that he felt that not necessarily were at their number one prime kind of position of playing to their performance level, he just maximised, get as many as he possibly could.
Denial was one of his great attributes, wasn't it? As Southey is in, forward in solid defence comes Crawley. Bat and pad close together, Crawley watchers will be pleased to hear. And it goes up to Williamson at mid-off, who does the fielding, 33 without loss.
If I said to you, Dan, Binley Mega Chippy, what would it mean?
Binley Mega Chippy.
Binley Mega Chippy. Have you seen it? The social viral sensation, the Chippy in Coventry.
Oh, right. Do you know?
Greg James will know about Binley Mega Chippy.
I'm not familiar with the Binley Mega Chippy. Is it in a place called Binley?
I'm not too sure whether it is. I just know Binley Mega Chippy is a viral sensation. Now, there's people coming from Australia to go to Binley Mega Chippy. Yeah.
Well, Southey's in. That's driven again firmly. Straight back past the bowler up to the pavilion for 4 more. These are the sort of shots that you'd love to see from Zach Crawley. And at the moment, he's going well. He's looking nicely grooved. 37 without loss. I can't believe there's anything more delicious in Binley Mega Chippy than that off drive.
Yeah, that was pure. That was just a push down the ground, full face of the bat. Perfection in terms of the transfer of weight. Just lets the ball get to him. So, yeah, that's as perfect an off drive as you can possibly see from Zach Crawley.
Always like
I don't think he's been to Binley Mega Chippy, but
no,
you know, I think when we go kind of through the Midlands area, it's worth stopping off at Coventry, and you'll queue like the MCC members this morning were queuing round the block. You'd be queuing round the block.
Well, there's a match. There's a match at Edgbaston. Should we not take a?
I'm more
trip?
than happy to take a trip.
What's the signature dish?
Fish and chips. It's a chippy.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like a Savoy.
It's chippy. It's a chippy.
Is all fish equally good in the Binley Mega Chippy?
Well, I'm sure there are different variants of the fish, but
would they do hake?
I know they do chips in a cone for £1.70.
In a cone?
Yeah,
okay.
Bit of gravy. I think they do battered sausage.
Always a bit concerned by the battered sausage. As Southey's in, left alone, close to the off stump. That is the end of the over. 37 without loss. Crawley 28. Lees has 9. Andy, we'll come to you in a moment, but Hugh in Basingstoke has emailed, and he says, listening to the discussion at tea with Greg James on bowling a Shane Warne ball of the century brought back a memory of my finest moment in cricket. Having bowled seam all my youth, I'd become tired of soft and slow uncovered pitches in club cricket. In my early 20s, I therefore decided to reinvent myself as a leg spinner. Who wouldn't? This was ultimately a failed venture. However, on one occasion, when playing a very casual Sunday friendly, I was given the opportunity to showcase my inability by the captain. The balls were good when I pitched them on the track, though this was like flipping a coin. I'll come back to it as de Grandhomme starts a new over. Lees plays and misses at a ball well outside off stump, but he's standing outside off stump. He really didn't need to play at that. Goes through to Blundell. At the end of one over, I realised the umpire had prematurely called over and had not accounted for one of my no balls. I queried this, and to the batsman's fury, the scorer and umpire agreed I could bowl another, probably not within the laws or spirit of the game. Feeling the power of fate on my side, as de Grandhomme is in, round the wicket to Lees, who lets this go by more sagaciously through to the keeper, and there's no run. Feeling the power of fate on my side, I threw down a good one, which pitched in the rough and bowled the batter round his legs. I wheeled away screaming, ball of the century, while the batter seethed. My friend on the opposing side bore the brunt of his rants for the remainder of the game, while I was carded for sixes with a smile on my face. As de Grandhomme is in, that's defended by Lees, a full ball back to the bowler, no run. This moment of history would not have been possible without the inspiration of the great Shane Warne. I will forever be grateful to him. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, lovely. Lovely.
All through a no ball, you see. I mean, it reminds me of Andrew Flintoff's
what's
great
happening
over.
on Saturday? Everyone's got to bowl the ball of the century, or
and record it. Flicked away to Patel. This next ball by Lees off de Grandhomme, straight to Patel, who's at mid-wicket, about 4 or 5 yards.
What odds would you give me on Matt Parkinson on Saturday?
Oh, yeah.
Here at Lord's, bowling a Shane Warne-like delivery?
It's distinctly possible. On most days on Twitter that Matt Parkinson bowls, there is a peach of a delivery, isn't there? De Grandhomme in again to Lees, who defends a straighter ball to short mid-wicket. There's no run. I'm a little concerned about where Lees is standing. We saw Ollie Pope do this in the Ashes. He's standing outside the off stump, and that brings the leg before into play and brings being bowled round your legs.
He'll say that he's not bringing leg before into play because he's going to get outside. His legs full, outside the line.
You've got to play round that pad. It can be tricky.
The key to this is, he played and missed it one that was wide of off stump early in the over.
That was a no ball. Oh, I say. As this ball's worked a short extra cover, a short mid-wicket, there's no run. A no ball. We've just had an email from you in Basingstoke, getting a wicket with the last ball of an over. I'm sat next to Ashes winning captain Michael Vaughan, one of the most famous overs in English cricket history, bowled by Andrew Flintoff to Ricky Ponting. He got a wicket with the 7th ball of the over after he bowled a no ball. I say, the stars are aligning. Will it be this ball? Lees faces, de Grandhomme bowls. And Lees comes forward in defence, pushes into the offside. And no, it didn't come to pass. End of the over, 38 without loss. Crawley 28. Lees has 9. And Andy, you've been trying to speak for about 5 minutes.
Binley Mega Chippy, Andy?
I've not been to the Binley Mega Chippy, but I was intrigued by your suggestion that Crawley's off drive was better than anything you could get in a chippy. I don't know how you can compare an off drive with a fine pickled onion. You're not comparing like with like, then.
Well, it's a good point. The fine pickled onion, I might put up there with an excellent off drive, but certainly not a Savoy or a battered sausage. And actually, chips. I like chips, but they're a bit like fizzy drinks, aren't they? After you've had 7 or 8 chips, you tire of the chip.
Do you?
Well, I do. Yes.
Do you?
I want to go back to the umami. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. I always want more. They're just moreish.
I don't find them so moreish. I find they supply a need, but it's a brief one. Start of a new over. Southey bowling it. A little bit of shape away to Crawley, but he leaves that to Blundell.
I was going to put New Zealand's first innings collapse in a bit of context. Bowled out in 40 overs in the first innings of a test match. In terms of the quickest England have bowled out the opposition when bowling first, 507 times England have bowled first in the test match. It's the 14th time they bowled the opposition out in 40 overs or fewer. Only the 4th time New Zealand have been out in 40 overs or fewer when batting first in a test. And the previous occasion,
it was a bit helter-skelter. And Southey is in to Crawley. Crawley defends firmly off the front foot to full straight ball back to the bowler. There's no run.
It was when they were scheduling 19.2 overs by South Africa in Cape Town, January 2013. As we mentioned, Lauren Brendan McCullum's first test as New Zealand captain. So Brendan McCullum getting a new job generally works out badly for New Zealand's batting.
Does feel a bit that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't turned to Kyle Jamieson.
No, I'm rather
for de Grandhomme for a couple. I'd be amazed if he bowls another. He's looked a little bit innocuous. Surely Jamieson's averaging 18 with the ball in Test cricket.
Southey in, clipped away nicely for 4 by Crawley. That was on the pads. He just turned the wrists on it and timed it sumptuously. Out through deep backward square leg. Fielder at long leg had no chance. It raced off the bat down to the mound stand. And England into the 40s now, 42 without loss. And England going great guns, Crawley going great guns. At the moment, we've seen it a few times before, but he seems to be in good working order. Bat and pad seem to be a bit closer together, Michael, today.
Yeah, so far he's let the ball come to him nicely. He's played it right under his eye line.
He's not been reaching, has he? There was one little drive into the offside, reached a little bit before tee, but for the most part, it's been late and it's forced a fielding change. Gully's come out. We've now got a short extra cover. 3 slips, that short extra cover point, mid-off on the offside. Southey into Crawley, who defends solidly again. A fullish ball on off stump, pushed back to the bowler. There's no run. Crawley on 32 now. So tell me, you ever been to a chippy where you can get lobster?
I would say that's not a chippy.
It's not a chippy?
No.
You see, I fancy
quite
lobster and chips.
Quite a posh restaurant,
lobster and frite with a garlic butter. I mean, why?
It's a chip shop down the road from here at Lord's called Seashells. I think you can get a lobster in there, yeah.
Ah, okay. Other chippies are available, including the Binley Mega Chippy, it would appear, as Southey is in, driven firmly, nicely, but not going to get a run for it. That short extra cover, it evaded him to the right and then went to the left of Kane Williamson, who moved to his left swiftly to field. It's going to be tricky to thread an off drive through this field at the moment, actually. You're going to have to hit it very straight, because Williamson's very wide at mid-off. He's almost at extra cover, but not quite. And then there's a short extra cover. And then there's this cover just in front of square. So, and now a deep backward square leg is going out, as well as the sun pokes through the high clouds, bathing Lords in glorious sunshine. Southey is in. That's driven straight down the ground for 4 more. Well, that is a beautiful shot from Crawley. 2 full again from Southey. He's not got his lengths right today. And England 46 without loss. Crawley 36. Lees has 9. I think it's time for me to depart. After some thoughts from Michael Vaughan, it's going to be Simon Mann coming back on again.
Yeah, and I think it may be time for Tim Southey just to depart out the attack. He's just not quite got it right. Lines and lengths have just not been the usual Tim Southey. Bowled a few straight before tea and now 2 full after tea. Good afternoon, Simon.
Hello, that even took me by surprise, actually.
What, Binley Mega Chippy, or the actual the off drive, or just being asked to commentate earlier than expected?
Yes, the latter.
Okay,
but and the off driving as well. He's batted so well, Zach Crawley. Mind you, we've seen it before, haven't we? At times, that innings he played in Sydney, it's glorious, and also in the Caribbean as well. Lees at the other end is 9 not out. De Grandhomme goes in round the wicket to bowl to him, and he plays that very carefully back to the bowler, who picks up away to his right hand side. Lees is batting over. What's he batting on there? He's batting outside the off stump. It seems to me he's taking his guard outside off stump. Let's have a look how he lines up now. Yeah, he's well outside. He's almost on. It's almost if he said to the umpire, 5th stump, please. And he's batting out of his crease as well. 2 slips in the gully and a short mid-wicket go down. De Grandhomme bowls, swings in a bit there. And Lees plays that into the onside towards that short mid-wicket fielder, Tim Southey, and there's no run.
The Southey versus Crawley head-to-head. Last year, in the test on this ground, Southey bowled 7 balls to Crawley, got him out twice, driving loosely in each innings for no runs. So far today, 27 runs from 33 balls with 5 fours.
De Grandhomme from the nursery end bowls to Lees, who's forward, playing it towards mid-off, picked up by Williamson, and there's no run. I posed you a question just before tea. We haven't given the listeners the answer to that question yet, have we? How often do you win if you score 132 in the first innings of a test match? And your answer was
22 times that has happened. It seems to be bowled up 135 or fewer batting first in the first innings.
And 105 losses.
Yep.
De Grandhomme outside the off stump. Leans forward and lets that go through to Blundell. The other question I asked you the other day, Zoltz, as well, coming into this test match, is when was the last time England went 1 win in 17 test matches? When did they have that sort of run in test match cricket, as poor a run as that? Because that's what they are coming off the back of here. I mean, it looks as though they're in a good position to win this Test match already, although it is early days. Fall to Lees from de Grandhomme, who pushes that up towards mid-off, and there's no run.
Well, the last time England had one win in 17 was in the late 1980s. They had a run of 1 in 25 from the final test of the 86-7 Ashes. They were 2-0 up and lost the final test. Did not. They only had one win until they went to the West Indies early in 1990.
De Grandhomme bowls,
and in
Lees tucks that away, backward square, down towards the deep backward square leg boundary. It won't be 4. The fielder down there's hat falls off. Is that Trent Bolt down there, or is it Neil Wagner on as a substitute? No, it is Bolt. Way in the distance. So they come back for 2.
The West Indies tours, they won the first test in Jamaica.
Under Graham Gooch,
and they should have
9
won
wickets.
the second game.
Well, that was the series where they had the West Indies just where they wanted them, and it rained.
That's right, yeah.
And Graham Gooch broke his hand, and he was a bit like El Cid in the dressing room because he was all padded up. Sort of to give his side confidence, but I don't think he was ever going to bat. I mean, Graham might contradict that if he's listening, but I think he'd broken his hand, but he was padded up with the sort of gloves on, seemingly ready to go.
Devon ran out Viv Richards from fine leg in.
That was in the first test
match. Yeah. That'd have been the first. I think that was the first series that was televised from overseas.
It was
on Sky Sports.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Trent Bolt's going to have a go from the pavilion end.
He bowled from the nursery end earlier. 48 for no wicket after 12 overs of England's reply. But there was a spell when England lost 13 in 17. You came up with that was in the 90s. So there was a pretty thin gruel in that sort of time. Late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s.
The last 17 up to this match, they'd had 11 defeats, 5 draws, and 1 defeat. And the only time they had more than 11 defeats in a 17 test span.
Here is Bolt bowling from the pavilion end to Crawley, drives gloriously. It deflects off the knee of Williamson and goes out towards the boundary. He has to chase that towards the rope, and he does get there, hurls the ball in, and Crawley comes back for 3. But he nearly kneed that into the boundary from wide mid-off, and there's the 50 partnership.
The foundation, so important if you want to become a real good test match team, that your opening partnership is a reliable one. When conditions are in your favour, you want good starts. Obviously you get on some pitches that it does plenty, and it's hard to get these kind of foundations set, but these are the kind of conditions that all batters should be
knocks the ball back, and Crawley comes back for 3. I mean, normally at Lords you don't catch those down there. It just suggests the outfield is not quite as quick as it often is at Lords. We have had a lot of rain in London the last week, 10 days, something like a huge thunderstorm earlier this week. Anyway, they're back for 3. It's rare you catch anything down there, but New Zealand just did there. It was one of those real touch and go ones. They're just checking it to make sure it was successful. Yeah, I think it was. Fielder going into the rope. Hold on. No, there's I see an image on my screen which suggests that might be 4. There we go. 4 has been signalled. Well, you don't catch many down there.
See, I think you look at Zach Crawley here. He's 42 from 55 deliveries, and he hasn't really looked to have played a shot in anger. He's just played nice, controlled cricket strokes. That's why he's so invaluable for the England side, because he does get the game going forward.
59 for no wicket. Jameson bowls to Crawley. Crawley drives. He's caught behind. Crawley is gone. New Zealand celebrate. Although Crawley's come down the pitch to chat with his non-striker there, as if to say, did I hit that? I'm not sure. New Zealand absolutely convinced. Up went the finger.
Oh, surely you know when you've played the big drive whether you've got an outside edge. I've just been praising him, and he'd played so controlled. It's the first time actually he's taken his drive and his hands away from kind of the control. He'd been waiting for the ball to get close to his eye line, And you watch this drive, Simon, he just takes his kind of positioning away from his eye line. The hands go a little bit too far in front of him. Yeah, it's a long way from his body. And that's a huge disappointment. He'd been playing so nicely. And it's a big outside edge. Look how far away from that eye line he's playing that stroke.
And that's how you get Zach Crawley out, isn't it? That's how teams try to get him out. They tempt him with that delivery, and Crawley, after playing nicely, has nicked off. He's out for 43.
43 is not enough in those conditions. You know, the conditions are pure for batting. That is a huge mental error.
Blundell with the catch. Now England's new number 3 is on his way to the middle, Ollie Pope, and a lot of focus on his elevation to number 3. He's the big winner, if you like, in the selection tombola for this series. In England, they rate him, they believe he's got enough talent to make a go of it, but well, he's got to produce.
The opening partnership, 59 for the first wicket from 14 overs. England's first opening stand of 50 or more at Lords since the game against South Africa in 2017. They played 7 tests between then and now without reaching 50 for the first wicket. The average opening stand in that time 15, and 7 of the 13 opening stands were ended in single figures. Zach Crawley finished with 43 from 56 balls with 7 fours.
So that is one bonus for Ollie Pope, is that he hasn't had to come out and face the new ball, the rock solid new ball. He comes in the 15th over. He's not on strike at the moment as the last ball. The over, that one's edged by Lees into the slip cord, and it's gone down low, but it's not carried, I don't think. It was similar to the Bairstow one earlier, that brilliant catch to get things going. It was stopped at slip by Latham, away to his left-hand side, next to Southey. They both went for it. It nearly carried, but not quite. Not far away from 2 in 2 there, New Zealand. Yeah, in fact, it was Southey away to his right who stopped it, and Latham went behind him. 59 for 1. Bolt steaming in, bowls to Lees. Oh, beauty, past the outside edge. Lees groping forward, and taken by Blundell. So a lift for New Zealand. Crawley with that big drive, wide of off stump, nicking through to the wicketkeeper. Ollie Pope, who's been in excellent form this summer. He often is in county cricket, especially he's playing at the Oval. First class average of 51, test average of 28. Lots of runs already this summer. Bolt bowls to Lees, and Lees opens the face and runs this down towards backward point. Now it's stopped by Patel, and there's no run. Now Michael Vaughan has gone. Jeremy Coney is here, former New Zealand captain. Good afternoon.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah.
All right? Yep. Good start by England. Good start in the context of the match. I think the pitch has got a little bit easier, though, don't you, from this morning?
Often does.
Yeah.
At Lords. Second day is often the best day for batting. Here's Bolt bowling short, and well played by Lees, bending at the knees, letting the ball go past his chest, through to the keeper.
And for New Zealand, if the ball isn't swinging, you know, that means quite a lot for players like Bolt and like Southey. So that I was quite surprised, actually, that Jameson wasn't brought in a little early, and why, you know, de Grandhomme would be brought in ahead of Jameson when you've only made 130 odd seemed a little odd to me.
And to me as well. I mean, he's got this great record, hasn't he? He's made a fantastic start. Bolt bowls, and Lees drives into the offside towards wide mid-off. Picked up by Williamson, but he cannot prevent the single. Nice looking shot from Lees. Takes him to 15. And England 60 for 1 in reply to 132 from New Zealand. Now Ollie Pope is going to take his first ball in his first class career at number 3.
Yes, there's quite an interesting stat on Ollie Pope that highlights his struggles in Test cricket compared with his prodigious form in first class cricket. Maybe we'll come to it at the end, after this ball, the end of the over.
Last ball of the over coming up. Here's Bolt to bowl to Pope, and Pope is into line and turning that to mid wicket, where it's picked up by Patel, and there is no run. So 60 for 1. We've got an hour and 50 minutes cricket left on this first day. Well, you can give us that stat, Zoltz. I'm going to vacate and let Jonathan Agnew come in.
As you mentioned, he's had a fine start to the season, averaging 69 in 5 first-class games for Surrey. Overall, Ollie Pope's first-class career, encompassing both county cricket and Test cricket, is 51. In Test cricket, 28. If you exclude Test cricket, it's 66. So there's a difference of 38 between his average in non-Test match first-class cricket and his Test average. And of players who've played 10 or more Tests, that is the highest difference between a first-class average outside Tests and a Test average in the history of the game currently.
Thank you, Andy. 60 for 1. Sun trying to shine at the moment as Kyle Jamieson sets off from our end, bowls the left-handed Lees, who's forward, plays that very carefully into the offside, and there's no run. So disappointing dismissal, I think, for Crawley there. We talk a lot about his extra cover drive and how irresistible it is to him, because when he plays it well, he plays it beautifully, and it's a very productive shot, but it gets him out an awful lot too. I think today, having been so well set and the ball not doing very much, and you get to 40, you're looking to get a good score. In goes Jamieson, and he bowls outside the off, one that swings away from Lees, allows that to go through to Blundell, who catches the ball in front of first slip. Jeremy Coney, it's lovely to see you again.
Hello, Eggers. Do you think Pope is a bit of a gamble? I mean, the reason he's 3 basically is because the captain has said to Root, pop down to 4, will you? I mean, otherwise he only wanted to bat 4 really because he was captain. That's what he said. That's why I want a bit more time if I'm captain to bat at 4. And then finally he went up to 3.
Jamieson bowls a Yorker, which Lee successfully negotiates, squeezing the ball out into the offside.
Now, of course, not captain. Just got to concentrate on batting and doing his catching. So you would wonder why he wouldn't be 3 in those circumstances. I mean, wherever you put your players, you'd like them to feel that they could succeed at that part. Now, if you look at Pope's results in international cricket, let's just put first class to one side. We know how well he's done at first class.
Well, Jamieson again, the lumbering run, bowls to Lees, who defends the ball on the off stump. He stands up and plays that very correctly and mid off fields.
Now he's had 40 Test innings. Right? His last 29, he's averaged 22. And when he was here last year, I watched him stand on off stump, and he was tinkering with things. And the only reason you move to off stump is what? Why would you move to off stump?
You're the batsman. I don't know. I don't know why.
Well, usually you do that to try and take the cordon out of play.
Right.
So that you don't nick it out there.
He goes Jamieson again, bowls from round the wicket this time, and Lees plays to gully.
You're concerned about movement.
Right.
And particularly getting an edge into the cordon from there. So the problem about taking off stump, of course, is that a ball on middle stump, you're playing across the ball.
Yep.
Because, you know, your legs are in the way, you have to play across it. And as I recall, I think, from home watching him play his last innings in Australia, he nicked off about 8th or 9th stump in the first innings and then got bowled behind his legs in the second innings.
Jamieson bowls on middle stump again, a bit too short really, and Lees can stand up and defend that, and it's fielded in the leg side. It's 60 for 1. Lees 15 and Pope yet to score. Now
he's batted 11 innings at number 5 and 22 innings at number 6. So there's 33 of his 40 innings, and he's averaging 30 in both those positions. Number 4, he went for a start, if you remember. That's where he came in. And he's averaging 18 there. Now, at number 3, Aggers, for me, it's a position that you're almost an opener. I mean, he could have been in, if England were batting and, say, New Zealand fluked a wicket first ball, he could have been in the second ball.
Here's Bolt bowling down the leg side, and Pope whips the bat out of the way and allows that to be taken by the keeper.
Number 3 is one of the most difficult positions to bat. Because of that, you have to be very technical. You've got to know where your off stump is, and yet you can't stand on it really. That makes it very difficult for you. So I'm not sure from what we've seen so far. I mean, there's always hope to change. I can understand that. But I just think it's almost a shot in the dark, if I could put it that way.
Bolt again, bowls to him, outside the off stump. It's worth noting he's on off stump at the moment.
Yeah. But, and I'm not trying to put him down, and I'm not trying to get at all. I'm just saying,
it's
as a selection policy, to push someone like that to 3 when, if it's not going to be someone who is already playing there and is a batsman solely now, or the obvious is Milan, because he's batted 3 as well. I'm not doubting he's a good player, and he might well here. This will be a perfect situation for him.
Bolt on his way, moves in, bowls to him quite late. He fiddles that away into the offside, finds point. Again, no run. He can't get off the mark. It will be interesting. I mean, the route 3 or 4 has sort of been played out ever since Root started playing, really. And he always felt quite strongly that he always preferred to bat at number 4. And he took one for the team whenever he went up and batted at number 3. Yes. Each time he went up to number 3, he said, now I'm ready to bat at number 3. It's like a sort of an announcement. That, now, look, I'm going to do it now. I'm ready for it and so on. But you felt he never really meant it. Here's Bolt again, and that's a little inside edge there. The ball creeps away into the offside, almost getting through. 60 for 1. And so I think that when Stokes, his mate, became captain, he said, listen, Joe, bat at 4. Bat at 4. We know that's where you like batting. It's where you've been most productive.
Well,
it's where you're happiest.
It just seems to me, I just wonder whether this is the best. I mean, it'll either go, it might go very well.
Yeah.
Because these are conditions certainly where New Zealand struggle, where the ball isn't swinging, there's not enough grass on the pitch to actually get it to move quickly.
Bolt again, and he rather chases that to try and drive through the covers, doesn't time it at all. It's interesting because how Stokes explained it was, okay, so he's got Root at 4 and Stokes himself going down to 6.
You don't mind that, he's the all-rounder.
And he wanted Pope in the team. So therefore he could only bat at 3 or 5.
Yes.
Johnny Bairstow's number 5. Dan Lawrence was the other consideration to give, who actually batted. He batted very selflessly in the West Indies. He did. He batted for the team. This was Pope again playing into the onside as Bolt bowls on middle and leg. And I think you could consider him a little bit unlucky that he was discarded. But I mean, Stokes, I'm sure, saw that 100 as a few of us who were lucky enough to do that Pope scored in Port Elizabeth, and thought it was one of the loveliest innings you've seen in recent memory. It was a beautiful innings, and it was a modern Test innings, if you like, with ramp shots and all sorts of innovations and so on. It was it was a big 100 too, Andy, wasn't it? How many?
130 was it?
It was about 100.
Yeah,
it was a really good innings. Look, and so you know it's there. It's what's fascinating, isn't it? You know
no one questions that he hasn't got the shot.
So he's not going to bat at. There's two situations vacant. One is at 5 and one is at 3. Bairstow's the 5. There's only one place left. And that's,
well, you can't all be 5s.
In goes Jameson and bowls, and that's an edge that runs down to slip. Of course not. But Bairstow's been successful there recently.
At 5?
Yeah. So there's only one.
More 6, I think you'll
6
find.
6 was it? Yeah, yes. Against Australia, sorry.
Yeah.
So there's only one place left. And that's why Pope's at 3.
Yeah, because I think it's been the captain who's been batting 5 in those sorts of areas as well. So, yes. That's
how it's come to pass.
It's a tricky one, I realise that, and good luck to the young man. I think he's a good player too, and it's a fun thing to watch.
Yeah. In goes Jameson and bowls to Lees. He was forward carefully. The ball dribbles up the pitch. And Jameson picks up. I
do think it's a gamble.
Yeah.
And I think the danger is that if it doesn't work, where do we go now? Well, and certainly Rob Key's approaches, I know the coaches will unlock him. Those are the words he said. And I'm not sure whether it'll be that easy.
Jameson lopes in again from our end, bowls a ball that swings away from Lees. He jabs the bat down on it and picks up 4 through third man. It's run along the ground. through the slip cordon. A big swinger there from Jameson. Very full in length. And England move on to 64 for 1 wicket. I mean, if he doesn't make it, it'll be a real shame. I think he's got some real talent.
I think everybody recognises that. And I mean, I've watched him the last couple of years. I've done some work for Surrey, so I've seen him, and I know how much he likes the oval in particular. It would have been nice if he could have played at 3, perhaps, if that's what they were thinking. Well, they had a chat to Gareth Batty and said, "Hey, is this possible?"
Well, especially Amler batting at 3. I mean,
yes, I know.
What's the sense there? This is played back defensively, and I know they've done very well. Sorry, at the start of this season, but you do also have to, I think, have the international game at heart too, don't you?
Yeah. Well, it's so. Yeah. I mean, the other option at 3, if it's not going to be successful, is you play 3 openers.
Yeah.
That's certainly an option as well. As far as I would think, I'd start to look at some of the other openers that have got, and there are a lot of them have got quite a few runs.
Yep. 64 for 1 is the score. It's been an eventful day here. New Zealand bowled out for 132, and Jameson fires that away, beats the keeper. It's down the leg side. Is that wides or byes? Oh, the poor old keeper has been given byes. But Blundell there, well, he wouldn't have caught that if he'd thrown a blanket at it. It was way down the leg side. You've got to sympathise for him there a bit. But it's 4 more to England, 68 for 1.
Just on batting positions, historically number 4 since the Second World War at least has been the most productive place in the batting order in Test cricket. It's been the top, if you break it down by decade, it was the top scoring position in Test batting orders in 6 out of 8 decades, from the 40s up to the 2010s, and so far this decade as well.
Goes Jameson, bowls down the leg side, quicker ball this time, and Lee's just gets out of the way. If you go back from Jonathan Trott, who just totally off the top of my mind, you'd probably say was the most successful number 3 in recent times for England. I mean, who's featured in there?
I'll take that out for you. Just on number 4, in Australia, that they always had the idea that the best batsman should be at 3, but conditions rather different there. But mostly, certainly since the Second World War, most teams have had their best player at 4.
Less risk at that.
I think it maximises the chances of success for your best player.
I think so too. You give them just that little bit longer.
Yeah. Ball not moving around. You hope there's a bit of a
bowler's not quite so fresh.
Yeah. Bolt, left arm over the wicket, bowls to Pope, who's still not yet off the mark. That's his 8th ball, which he plays firmly back to the bowler. He comes up and a little bit of gardening there. He can be quite fidgety. I'd be quite interested to see what he's like in the dressing room before he bats. If he is one of those fidgety types, you get 2 varieties. You get the fellow who just sits there and is quite relaxed about it.
If he can cope with it mentally as well, and that it's another position. I'm only 1 position away from it anyway.
Bolt again, bowls to him, and Pope's away, pulling that away down to fine leg, and finds Jameson coming in off the boundary down to our left. He's got 3 coaching staff down there behind him, offering some sort of advice, I suspect, to the big fellow who's now trotting away from them. He's got to come down to the right-hand side now.
Yeah, Jameson has gone through quite a difficult year, actually.
Yes, I gather,
he started, of course, so well when he was introduced to the side, and had a fantastic first year. Very controlled, very precise, took lots of wickets, so much so he was invited to go to the IPL, with extraordinary money as options, and he found that method and that format extremely difficult, which demands change. It demands all sorts of deliveries: the slower short ball, the full ball, the wide ball, the round the wicket. Everything is different. And it's really he was let go this year from I forget what Bangalore, wasn't he?
Only young, and you wonder how, particularly with bowlers, how grooved you have to be before you start really messing around in that high level of T20 cricket.
And I think for a tall bowler, it's the same as batting. Balance becomes such an important thing, the length of stride, all those kinds of things, your balance at delivery, what at the front arm, is it pulling you down but at the same time keeping you towards the target, all those things that are important. And it's been a bit of a mission, I think, for him to be able to find that way back, if it is going back to that precision that he really wants. He said, I'm not going back to the IPL this year, I'm just going to concentrate on it, which made sense.
Good decision. The ball's being changed here, by the way, hence the delay and an announcement over the PA system about something or other. But it's a lovely late afternoon. I really hope you're enjoying your bank holiday, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. I just hope you're enjoying this special weekend that's approaching. It's a very good crowd here at Lord's. Enjoying a really eventful day from dear old Jack Leach, suffering concussion, fielding, diving over the boundary edge. So he's been withdrawn from the game, and there's a concussion substitute. I don't know if he's arrived yet or not, but Parkinson is on his way, and he could just slot seamlessly into the match.
England number threes, you asked about, since Jonathan Trott. Trott had 73 innings at 3, averaged 45 with 700s and 15 50s over 3,000 runs.
Ball's been changed. Let's see if Bolt can swing it. It comes in and bowls to Lees, who comes forward and plays that calmly out to mid-wicket.
Since then, England's most regular three has been Joe Root at various times of his career, a total of over 2,000 runs, but averaged 39, so almost 10 runs below his overall career average. Gary balanced it very well at 316 tests there, averaged 46, but then lost a rather striking loss of form. We've also had Nick Compton, Moeen Ali, Tom Wesley, James Vince, Johnny Bairstow, Joe Denley, Jason Roy played one test at 3, Zach Crawley, Dan Lawrence, Haseeb Hameed, David Milan, and now Ollie Pope.
That's real searching, isn't it?
Yeah. Here's Bolt again bowling, and that's flicked firmly out to mid-wicket. It's straight to the field. I mean, really,
of all those names who are currently playing, and some of them still are, Vince and Co that you mentioned,
Lawrence,
Moeen Ali wanted to come back, but that seemed a bit strange for him for a couple of games. But it seems to be Root.
Yeah.
How did Milan get on? What was?
Well, I think he didn't have a. I mean, he was an Ashes casualty.
I mean, he started that Ashes pretty well. Had a couple of good innings in the first 2 tests, and then lost form.
Bolt again. That's played by Lees on the walk this time, with a very straight bat up to mid-on. The problem for him, I mean, he fell in that classic case of losing form, but then no opportunity to try and find form. No matches in between the tests. It's quite interesting, this series of New Zealand, so they've got these 2 test matches, then there's 9 days, I think I'm right in saying, between Trent Bridge and
Edgbaston.
Headingley.
Oh yes.
Yeah, Headingley,
yes.
the final test. Why aren't they playing a game in that time? You know, back in the day.
New Zealand?
Yeah.
Oh, they should be.
Yeah, of course they should.
Yeah.
In comes Bolt, and bowls outside the off stump, and Lees watches it go by, and they should be
especially if we've seen the way they batted today.
Yeah, and
they just need some games.
They should be playing against the England Lions.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's how
terrific
everyone
for England
helps each
Lions.
other.
Yes,
you know,
I agree.
It's things like that. The mindset has completely changed from trying to get people in form, give them the opportunity, and so on, to all playing too much. So we've got to have a rest now and have a bit of family time. Go to the Lake District. Have a nice time. But you can't sort of fiddle with Test cricket. You can't double with it. If you're going to be up against the best, at the best, you've got to be well prepared.
Yes,
haven't
you do.
Yeah.
Yes, you do. And this is how New Zealand have looked when they've played on pitches that are not green or there's not some bounce for them. They look rather innocuous. And this is where they've gone out the crest. They've had their crest.
Jameson starts again, hurls that down, hits Pope on the pad. Raised his arms there optimistically, the big fast bowler, but no support from behind the wickets. And there's no runs. 69 for 1. Lee's 19. Pope has 1. The man out was Crawley, who looked very well set for his 43. But then I'm afraid his Achilles heel, the extra cover drive, he'd played 3 or 4 times really well. But it's so interesting, isn't it, as a batsman, that your most productive shot can also
Well, your strength is your weakness sometimes.
Indeed.
Especially early on.
They kept bowling at it and kept bowling at it. And sure enough, the drive was there without the footwork. Bang, gone. And that'll be talked about, I'm sure. In goes Jameson again and bowls the outswinger, which is played by Pope back to the bowler.
Well, the thing I felt about Crawley, he chokes the bat, so you don't see any of the handle at all. You see the blade, and then the hands are right low,
very low.
Together.
Yeah.
Let's face it, together,
yeah.
And that makes him very strong. A lot of those players through the leg side, particularly, and you'll have seen a lot more than him. But I imagine he plays a clip shot and a tuck shot,
played a couple of
and
times
all
today.
those.
Yep.
If you get to the middle and leg or leg stump with him, and the length's okay, he's away. But it's the drive,
correct.
And you've got to use the body shape to get there.
Goes Jameson, bowls outside the off stump because
you're holding it so low.
Well, you're shortening your arms.
Exactly.
So your foot has to be across. Yeah.
It's quite difficult to get around to play those strokes. So a left armour going across him with that angle brings gully into play and third and all those areas.
It is surprising that someone actually of his height as well, who is so dependent on that stroke, should hold the bat so low. I'm surprised by that.
Well, it would mean that he's usually pretty strong on the pull and the cut, because the bat he's got control of that bat face very well by holding it so low and leg side. But the drive is hardest for him.
Jameson again over the wicket, bowls just short of a length, a lively pace, and Pope lines it up, takes the bat away. Blundell takes it. Williamson still on the attack here. There's still 4 slips. Needs wickets. Bowled out for just 132. So England just 63 runs behind. Although it's been a slow day in terms of over rate, they should be round about
par.
Even Stevens by the close of play, which will be about 6:30.
Well, especially if he keeps his 3 and 1.
Yep. Pope's over his bat again, and he's on that. His bat's on off stump. As Jameson runs in, bowls to him and is forward, wants the single. Lee sets off. He's done that a few times in this innings and has to go rushing back into his ground again. Nothing is done. 69 for 1. The sun's shining. Those in the mound stand peering into that sunshine now. It's warm. Lovely part of the day. It's that very contented murmur you can hear. People are settling back, and it's been a day in the sun, and they're chatting about it, whoever they're sitting next to. A day in which it felt as if things had more or less returned to normal, I must say. Out there for the toss, and Perspex has been dismantled.
What, down on the ground?
Just everywhere.
Yes.
Jameson bowls to Pope, who tries to work it into the leg side. There's no run. 69 for 1. Somewhere there is a Perspex mountain from all these cricket grounds over the last couple of years. Jeremy, more thoughts from you? Then Isha Gur's coming here.
Yeah, well, certainly England deserved to be in this situation. There's no doubt about that. They bowled in conditions that suited things, and they were good to be nice, straight enough. They bowled fuller than they had. They found the edge of the New Zealand batsmen who really just put a little bit wide at things and lacking in cricket. And so they were dismissed and were in terrible trouble very early on in the day and didn't really get out of it, and they tried to then thrash the bowling after lunch. Some success.
As Trent Boult is in bowling, struck on the pad is Lee, quite high up. The appeal, it's given not out. Trent Boult having a quick look at Tom Blundell to say, was it too high? Was it going down the leg side? He decided not to review and disperse. Shadow chasing Trent Boult as he returns to the top of his bowling mark. Trailing by 63 then, England. 69 for 1 in the 21st over. England outstanding in the morning session, picking up 6 wickets. A brilliant debut for Matt Potts as well, finishing on 4 before he picked up a little calf niggle. I think it was a bit of cramp actually before he left the field, and Ben Stokes cleaned things up as Boult bowls to Lees, who guides the ball to extra no run as Phil Tufnell comes in. Hello, Phil.
Good evening.
You've got your glasses on.
Well,
it's quite evening time, is it?
Oh,
no, it is. It is past 5 o'clock. Yeah.
I'm going for evening,
okay.
Isha.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone.
It's because it's such a bright day.
I know.
Feel the sun beaming down on us.
We're in a good spot here.
Here in northwest London, as I can see Colin de Grandhomme warming up at mid-on. Time for maybe a little trundle from him as Bolt turns, running towards us from the pavilion end. Lees, left-hander on the back foot, punching it to mid-on. No run.
Yeah, Lees rather negated him, didn't he, with that sort of pace, and he was batting well out of his crease. I would have thought that perhaps the wicket-keeper might have come up to the stumps because he was just sort of nullifying him. Yeah, so perhaps coming on for Ollie Pope, his technique has wobbled around that sort of fourth, fifth stump, hasn't he? I know he's been working hard on it.
Left armour bolts in to Lees, tucking it away to mid-wicket, no run off his front foot. I was slightly more on middle and leg there for Bolt. Lees on 19. Pope has got off the mark.